hotter the conflict, the greater the triumph.
A theistic serpent may be overcome by a swarm of ants.
Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Age wrinkles the body, quitting wrinkles the soul.
Battle buddies.
Battle buddies.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a part 5.
We're at part 5.
This is the end.
This is
dude.
the ultimate.
I feel it's always a bittersweet with these.
It is.
It's a lot like a well-traveled book when you go on an airplane with a book and this book goes across state lines with you, and then you finish this book. You're very proud of yourself that you finished this book, but you're also like, damn, dude, we went places.
Yep.
Though.
Yeah, we went together.
Mm-hmm. So there's something very romantic about it, and I gotta say, as we have journeyed through our lives over these past, 3 or 4 months doing the Iliad?
Sure. I've been working on it for almost a year now, 11 months.
We've grown as people.
We have grown.
And things on planet Earth have changed around us as we learn about these myths, these truths of the myths that bring out the truths of reality.
Whoa.
Who knows?
That was deep almost.
I was trying to be.
I like it.
Off the cuff. Unrehearsed. I was rehearsing until 3 a.m.
Kids are trying to ask you questions today, and you're like, fuck off for a second.
Yeah.
The truths of our truths.
Exactly. In order to understand it, you just gotta understand it, right? You don't understand what you don't understand.
So the Iliad, the end of it, I will say before we even go into it, one of the best endings of a book I probably have ever read.
It's like that?
I was laughing about it because I was like, oh, it turns out that when a book is retold by many people for hundreds, if not thousands of years, they kind of nail it by the end.
Right, but what can I get a gauge here?
Sure.
Let's erase the Iliad. What's your favorite ending of a book?
Well, my favorite ending of a novel is probably The Great Gatsby, although I do not like The Great Gatsby.
The ending of The Great Gatsby is pretty dope.
It's really, and it's a cliche because that's what most people say, except for that when I don't know.
You're the English guy.
That's what English people are like, oh, but have you read the end of The Great Gatsby? And then I was like, oh, I've read it. But then I reread it and I was like, it's really good.
Dude, but the ending of Catcher in the Rye is dope too.
True.
Like how he goes crazy.
Yeah, I was like, but maybe.
The ending of Fight Club, the book, is also cool because he's writing letters from what they call heaven, but he's really in a mental institution.
Right,
that's
mental,
cool as
he's getting
shit.
wheeled in. Yeah.
Email us, dude, or hit us up on social media and let us know your favorite ending of a book. I know Mr. J.R. Wise would be down to let us know. He's a huge reader.
I like Dune.
Yeah, I like Dune too, dude.
But Dune's endings are more, okay, you've been putting off any action this whole book. I'm really excited for these last 50 pages where things are going to happen.
It's like an anime.
It is like an anime.
You tell me that the cover of this book isn't the dopest thing you've ever fucking seen.
I refuse to acknowledge.
But is it a cool cover?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Listeners, Spencer has gone into the dark side and he's now reading Brian Herbert. I don't think you're a douche. I think you're lovely. But I'm not sold on Brian Herbert's takes on things. It's okay. Maybe I'll try it again. You'll let me know it's good and then I'll read it.
We appreciate you if you've gotten this far.
Thank you. Part
5 of the Iliad is here.
Well, it's good if you are still here and you're like, well, they're kind of taking a little bit to get to the point. This is good because Spencer and I have a rule. We're trying to be honest with the podcasting formats, and 9 parts of a book that was written 3,000 years ago for a podcast feels weird because it does. And so we have, for at least me right now, because I've been reading these long, weird books, it's a rule. A 5-part rule.
It's a handicap. So
this is a longer episode. And by that, I mean, it's okay to pause it. You know, treat it kind of like an audio novel, like an audiobook.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you need to pause it, because we're going to go through a fair amount of text.
Let's be honest, though. The best time to listen to Battle Buddies is when you are at work, on break,
pooping,
taking a shit.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Dude, thank you.
This is pooping learning.
These words should be echoing in a bathroom stall right now. Wow.
I really do like this. All right. Before we go into the story and all the books, I want to acknowledge sources. I said I would acknowledge them, and I just have not done it because there's been so much to cover. So we're going to go over some of the books that I read over the last 11 months and not go super deep into all of them, but if you're interested in more about them, hit me up and I'll talk to you about them and which ones I'd recommend to you. So the first two are both from Madeline Miller, Song of Achilles and Circe. Both fantastic novels. It's why I'm almost finished with The Hobbit with my kids, and next I'm going to read a children's version of the Iliad and the Odyssey to them. And the reason, because Madeline Miller says that her mom was a librarian who read the Iliad to her when she was 5.
Whoa.
And so I was like, oh, okay, so that's where the bar's set. I get it. My kid's going to also read the Iliad when he's 5.
That's where the bar's set.
Because
I get it.
I really like her takes on things. I don't love her takes on everything. I don't like how she does Briseis. That's like my big beef with her in Song of Achilles, is that she makes it...
Really dig in, though. Like, roast it, though.
But, like, I get it, too. It's my problem.
Kevin.
I know. People... Okay, because I read some scathing Reddit.
I literally just, like, heaved you a grapefruit,
I know.
Kevin.
The problem is that I think she's lovely, and people give her hate. I don't get it. And it's like, is this...
Okay, this is that scene from Forgetting Sarah Marshall where they're in the ocean, and he's like, I listen to his thing, 'cause he's like, man, you're so cool.
Exactly. Because I was reading a Reddit forum on like Greek mythology, and people are like, "Oh, Madam Miller," and they're like, "It's not even that accurate." None of it's accurate. It's mythology,
Right.
and it's not written down. They all just spoke it, so none of the stories overlap perfectly. You missed the point. If you want Greek mythology to be consistent,
So many Redditors just slammed the door on our podcast.
good. I mean,
Bye.
come back, but. Yeah, so her Song of Achilles follows the Trojan War very closely, which is very good. Circe is kind of following a lot of Greek mythology, focusing more on like the Odyssey and like those moments. Then we go into some feminist literature that I read, which was Natalie Haynes' Pandora's Jar, which goes over just tons of Greek myths and kind of like feminist retellings or the problematic nature of them in like a modern lens. So when we look at these as modern people, what are the issues with these?
Yeah.
And you get some good, funny retellings also, which I really like Persephone. And who's the fucking guy that can't look back at her? Orpheus. I got it. I didn't need that.
Orpheus.
I connected some brain synapses right there
Orpheus.
in real time. So there's like one retelling that I really like. If you know the classic myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, Orpheus goes down to Hades to bring Eurydice out of Hades. And the rule is that he can take her out as long as he doesn't look back at her. But at the very end, he looks back at her and then she goes back to Hades.
Oh.
And it's also in a modern musical called Hadestown, which is very good. But
what's the deal with looking back? Like, why?
Oh, there's
why
a lot,
is that
a lot there,
All
right? Like you can't not look back. There's all. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. Good time. Eternal damnation. The part that's interesting in a feminist retelling that she goes over is she essentially kills herself to get away from Orpheus because she's so sick of him and he won't leave her alone because he's a stalker.
Whoa.
It gets worse. Then he
But
goes.
do they make? I wonder. Do any metal bands make songs out of these? These are metal as fuck.
I don't know. I know a lot of like Tolkien metal bands,
Yeah.
but I don't know a lot of Greek mythology metal bands.
We'll look into it.
Yeah, we'll look into that. So anyway, Orpheus goes down to Hades to retrieve her, and she is walking back with him and is like, I actually was cool down in Hades and don't want to come back up. Luckily, this guy is a fucking tool, right? He's a basic boy.
You can find him at Lowe's.
I'm going to say, hey, Orpheus, do you want to read me some of your poetry? And he can't resist attention, so he turns around, and then I get to say bye and go away.
That's it.
That was a fun story.
That's fun. Yeah. This is all in Pandora's Jar?
Pandora's Jar. She goes over lots of different myths.
That's fun.
You know, she kind of talks about things like Medusa, because we think of Medusa as a monster. Medusa's story's fucked up. Medusa's story's not cool.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into all of it, because it's just fucked up. She was just minding her own business. And someone turned her into Medusa because they were mad at her. The whole thing.
That's kind of how I feel like when you start to actually read these Old Testament stories, you're like, gee willikers, bro.
I thought you were going to say Jesus. I was like, he's not in the Old Testament.
I felt like that would have been... felt like that would have been inappropriate in that same sentence, considering people think it's like divine shit. But
The Bible.
yeah, the living word. But the Old Testament, when you start to read it, you're like, oh my goodness, this is dark.
The Old Testament's metal.
Oh, bro, it is rough.
Even if it is a divinely inspired text written for a different time.
not for me. It's not for me.
my modern issues can't really deal
Correct.
with this.
It is not written for Kevin Parker. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, then we have another Natalie Hayden's book. I think the stronger of the two, 1,000 Ships. And this is cool. It goes through all of the women of the Trojan War in the Iliad get like no screen time, which is a problem. And so she does the whole Iliad from the perspective of all the women only.
Sick.
And it's really dope.
It's dope. Yeah.
It also helps you as the listener, because if you've been listening through, you'll now, at the end of this episode, you'll know all of the Iliad or all the parts that we think are fun. So you would be ready to understand the rest of the story, because the story continues for, people keep writing about it for hundreds of years up to today. So thousands of years. So this would help bring you up to speed about like how the rest of the events go, like with Achilles' son and shit. And like things get wacky. They're always wacky in the Iliad, which that's part of the joy. So it's cool. I really also I think her last one is about Odysseus' wife. And it kind of changed my mind on Odysseus, and it makes his wife seem pretty cool, and Odysseus kind of a dumb and dumb.
Is this kind of like, can you correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the whole same story from different perspectives, isn't that called shamanism?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that word.
I appreciate this. It's one of the reasons I appreciate that story Wicked, because it gives you sympathy for that witch.
And
You're
I know
like,
it's kind of played out because like movies like Cruella or whatever.
Yeah.
I tried to watch
it.
that.
They do the same thing?
They tried to, but like, I don't think this needed to be a sympathetic character. I think this character I think this character wanted to kill some dogs to make a coat, and then that's kind of funny. And so like let's have her lose.
Yes, but that's not the route they went.
Sure. So 1,000 Ships. I recommend that one. I like that one a lot because of Odysseus' wife. Also because, as I'm remembering it, Hector's wife. Hector's wife is a sympathetic story. What happens to a widow of the losing side of a war? So you're royalty, so you're not going to get killed, but it's not going to be good. But maybe it can be good if you make it good, make the best of a bad situation. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Do you guys see, if you open up your phone and look at this on Spotify, do you guys see what Kevin's doing right now? He's like, look at all of these books that I read for this. This is just like books and books that Kevin has been doing for these episodes.
Then in December of last year is when I started reading my original Iliad, which was the classic Robert Fagles translation. So if you're going to listen to an audiobook of the Iliad, it's probably by Robert Fagles. If you're going to read one, you just pick one up off the street or pick one up from your English teacher's room. That's probably the one you're going to read. So it's not bad to read his because it's like the known
standard
work. Yeah, it's the standard. But I am all about my boy Peter Green. And this is the one that I've been using for my notes. So the quotes I've been reading, if words sound weird, that's why. It's because I'm reading a different dude. I'm reading a dude who started translating this when he was like 80-something.
Really?
R.I.P. to Peter Green, because he died in mid-September of this year.
Oh, whoa.
At 99.
Shout out.
Dude. Fucking love you, Peter Green. You know,
heavy lifter.
He is. And so he translated this one like 2015.
Dude, we should give him a shout out.
I love him.
Like on the socials or something.
We should.
That's dope.
And if I cover the Odyssey, I'm going to be using his version because he did finish that. When you
cover the Odyssey.
When I absolutely will be covering the Odyssey whenever I'm allowed to, because the Odyssey is so much fun. I read one of the Odyssey stories with my students this year, and I didn't do the abridged version. I did the real version, and they were like, "This is kind of really dark," because it describes like the Cyclops held them up like puppies, and then talked about the puppy's eyes. You know how puppies' eyes look at you?
Yeah.
And then he smashed their brains in.
Damn.
And I was like, "Oh, I forgot about this. This is so much fun." Anyway, Peter Green, in 2018, he translated the Odyssey, so we can look at that one. He died translating, not like because of translating, but because he was 99 is why he died. But he was translating your boy that's tattooed on you.
Oh, Herodotus.
Yeah, he was
Or
doing
Herodotus. That's
Herodotus.
dope. What was he training? Was he training the histories?
One of his histories.
No shit.
And so he was working with another guy because he was 99 and
Is that
translating.
out?
So it's coming out in the beginning of 2025. I
You're
tried
lying.
I tried to get it so I could buy it for you for your birthday.
Oh, Kevin.
But it wasn't out yet. And I was like, oh, this would be like the most thoughtful gift. Like, this is the best.
This is the eve of, if you're listening to this is the eve of my birthday, and just hearing that was the best gift I could have ever gotten.
Hey, I was
That's
really
tight.
thinking, I was trying to get you like a thoughtful gift. I was like,
Dude.
this would be a really good open gift for Spencer.
Based off of this conversation, that's very exciting. I will be picking up the
Yes.
Histories by Peter Green.
So you'll have to maybe cover that one for us.
Dude,
That'll be fun.
awesome.
So these are books. We use them. Just want to talk about them. I also read a bunch of, like where I got all that warrior/poet energy stuff. A lot of articles. So if you're interested in any of the articles, like the military-based articles, let me know. I can send them to you.
Hey, I had a coworker today that said to me in the break room, they said, "Hey, I heard you had a podcast. Do you read a lot?" And I said, "Do you have a mom?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "I read more than your mom."
Damn.
Is that fucked up?
That's a fucked up joke.
Hold on. Back
like
up.
it.
These
I
are
like
educated people. Do not most moms read?
I don't
Does
know.
your mother read?
My mom is sad that she doesn't read more.
But she reads.
I think so.
Did you grow up and your
Hey.
mom was reading?
Mom, you read. She puts herself
Moms-
down. She puts herself down. Last time I talked to her, she's like, I wish I read more. I read more.
Moms of America. You guys read.
You read enough.
And if you don't, that's okay. Listen to us.
Yeah, you're fine.
If you listen to us, you read.
Enjoy life.
Mhm.
All right. Book 17. Now, it's weird doing the first book of like an episode. This is something that Spencer will understand when you're doing like the first section of a book that you're going to be covering in the podcast. And you're like, oh, there's a lot of shit here that I need to cover.
Mm.
And then you're stuck because you don't know, do I actually need to cover all this? Because there's no way to know. I have no context yet for the rest of it. This is one of those. And in retrospect, we don't need to cover as much as I thought. But it feels like you do because it's just so fucking wacky. I'll recap, though, before we get there. Last time, on book 16, Patroclus died. That was a big deal.
Mhm.
No good for pretty much anybody that Patroclus died. I guess the Greeks really enjoyed it, but they were going to be upset.
The opponents.
No, because the Greeks are excited because that means Achilles might fight for them.
Oh, that's right.
But they don't know that yet because it's not a guarantee yet. Because Patroclus died to Hector, and Hector is thinking at this point, I bet I can fuck up this body.
Oh, yeah, that's right. This is
Yes.
a big no-no.
The big no-no,
Don't do
we're going to
that.
get into a
No man
lot
left
of burial
behind.
rights
Right.
shit.
And it's something that you want to sit here and you want to say it's not a thing that we care about, but that's...
It's bullshit. We talked about this last episode.
yes.
I really liked our last episode, our off-the-cuff fucking talk about No Soldier Left Behind,
Dude, it's a
No
thing.
Man Left Behind, and
Culture.
how much... And, you said the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and shit.
Mhm.
It absolutely is a thing. But it's that secular spirituality,
Yeah.
pseudo-Christianity,
For
because
sure.
that's part of it. Very interesting stuff when you start examining our culture through like that type of lens, like kind of an alien lens, right? You're an alien looking at American culture, being like, where did this come from?
Yeah,
And why doesn't this look like it did in the 900s in Britannia?
If you are playing a real-time strategy video game and you're
Mhm.
watching these soldiers in Afghanistan, whoa, they're putting the flags on their coffins and they're like
Right.
taking them home. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Look at these little monkeys doing this. Like, they're complicated.
They're complicated. They got mental things going on.
For sure.
Yes. Okay. Book 17 starts actually with another invoking of the muse, which I wanted to bring up because Spencer likes Herodotus, the father of history. I wanted to just briefly talk about invoking the muse a little bit of how I see it.
I love it.
So I see invoking the muse, like when they do it, they say, Muse, tell me about this person. I really think that when they genuinely invoke the muse and they start telling like what Hector said, that they believe that's essentially what Hector said at that time. They're not just invoking.
Oh, yeah.
So
sure.
Herodotus, when he's like invoking a muse of history,
Yeah.
and then he gives the speech of some ancient Persian king, that's what they think that Persian king fucking said.
Right. It's
That
the
is
same.
that's their source. That's a primary source
This
from
is
the
the
gods.
exact same view as, well, I can't speak for all, but like my father would have viewed this the same as the Bible.
Sure.
Like he's like, it's God breathed. It literally says
Yeah,
it's God breathed.
people just took it in.
It's the living word. It's,
The
all
inspiration, the exhalation.
totally. It's people absolutely view it as like divine, like 100% the word of God.
Sure.
And so it's kind of similar to what
It
you're
is
saying.
absolutely similar.
Yeah.
And before those that are more like on the atheist side or agnostic side poo-poo it, which I'm definitely on the super agnostic side, although I change that every morning. As I brush my teeth, I change it every stroke. Like, where am I today?
I would say, Kevin, that you and I are in the exact same boat, friend.
And I don't hate where I'm at on that.
Same.
But what I see there is, like in the show Twin Peaks. No, this is good. This is my first high level English class after I got out of City College. City College is a fucking jail, right? And you're like, I cannot wait to get out of here and get into some high level shit. And I get into my first like high level English class at Cal State Long Beach, and it's with this poet Lachlan's son. We call him Young Lachlan, and he always just like wore his earbuds in with the cords tingled up, and he drank the shitty coffee that we would drink out of the vending machine. And I was like, I kind of like this guy. And he'd come in all late and shit, and I loved him. In one of our first analysis, he put on Twin Peaks. I'm like, oh, this guy fucking knows what's up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an episode where he put up a bunch of clues, and he just had him and the other sheriffs throw rocks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that
Yeah,
scene?
of course.
Classic
That's one of the
scene.
best scenes.
It's one of the best scenes of the whole show.
Mhm. Agreed.
So for listeners, there's a murder. They're trying to figure out what's happening. So they put up a bunch of clues in like jars, and they just start throwing rocks at him. And whenever it hit one of the jars, it'd be like, okay, that's the clue we need to follow up. And his thing was, because we were reading Freud's Interpreting Dreams, and he was talking about, he's trying to make us like really, really understand that for Freud, although a lot of his ideas are kind of fucked up now in retrospect, a lot of his ideas are still sound in that the idea of the consciousness being a tiny, tiny little diamond, and that your unconscious is an entire fucking universe, and you cannot comprehend how weird it is
For sure.
to try to push an entire universe out of a tiny diamond.
Right.
And that's what Dale Cooper is doing in Twin Peaks. And that's what, when you take inspiration from divine gods, you're doing. So Herodotus read a ton. He traveled a lot and talked to a bunch of people. Did he get the exact quote? No! He probably missed a lot of them. But he might have gotten correct on some of the things that mattered. Who knows?
Yeah.
It was the best that they could do at the time.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Dan Carlin always quotes that guy about, even if you don't believe ancient history, you still have to believe it. Something like that.
Yeah.
I really like this.
Like, what is the alternative?
Yeah, exactly. And they were doing something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very interesting things. I'm obsessed with history, always will be. And now it's time for Star Wars.
Star Wars. Now it's time for Lord of the Rings. And Dune. Oh my God, a kid was like, what's your favorite book, Mr. Parker? This was 2 days ago. And I was like, it's hard to say, but I've reread Dune the most of any book. He said, Dune? Like the movie? Like it was a book first. How old am I? Like you didn't know it was a book? None of us know it's a book, Mr. Parker.
But did they like the movie?
I think he got bored doing it. I don't know if he ever watched it. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, that's
I don't think middle
no.
schoolers are watching Dune.
I would have fucked with that so hard in middle school, bro.
I think it would have been hard for me. I think I would have wanted to like it. If I had a buddy that liked it, I would have been in it. Okay, we got to start this book at some point. So, Patroclus, he's just dead. And Menelaus, of all people, he's nearby. And he sees Patroclus dead. And he's like, I can't let Hector get this body. And what we're going to see here is just the longest battle between Trojans and Greeks. I think of the whole book just fighting over this body.
How long is it?
I don't know, because it's 1 day of battling, but in terms of like how much text is dedicated to it, it's an entire book, and it's not a short book in terms of like how many lines there are in this book. This is a long ass book, 17, And it's just like, when I say they're battling over this body, I mean like somebody will get the body, and then somebody will die getting the body, and then somebody will try to get an armor off the guy who died off the body while trying to get the body, and those two guys will die. It's nonstop. It's just a in my mind, when I read it, I saw a mountain of corpses of Greeks and Trojans.
Yeah, see, but people aren't reading it; they're listening to it. So that's a hella cool thing to listen to,
Yeah.
right?
It's really fun.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, what? Oh shit! Oh my god! Oh no! Oh, he's got it now.
Yes, and I love the subtext of Menelaus being one of the main guys, of being like, we can't fuck this up now because this whole war is his fault.
Yeah.
As I rewatched Troy last night in preparation for this.
Did you?
What do I care about a man who can't keep his own wife? Because women are property, right?
Oh,
Brad Pitt.
fun. Topical.
I know. What's that thing going around? Your body, my choice. Woo, it's rough. That's a rough statement.
That's not going to age well.
No. Unlike the Iliad, which is aged gracefully.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so Hector, he really wants the body. He wants to, like, defile the body. He wants to cut off the head. He wants to, like, cut it up. And remember, Hector stripped off Patroclus' armor, which is Achilles' armor. So Hector is wearing the most famous armor in all of the Aegean Sea, essentially. Probably, in the perspective of the Greeks, the world. For what the Greeks know of as the world. Everybody would know this armor at this point. So
he's wearing Iron Man suit, dude.
He's wearing Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Although it's like 1.0 Iron Man. Because we'll see.
Yes.
Achilles is going to get some new armor.
Okay.
Okay, we get some politics, which is interesting for our military-based podcast, because do you remember last episode I said that guy Sarpedion died from Patroclus? Hector kind of wasn't there to help this guy. It's kind of a random guy, but we talked about how he was, I guess, a big deal in the war of the Iliad so far. So anyway, this guy Sarpedion died, and he was a Lycian. Lycian? He's a Lycian. And the Lycian guy goes up to Hector and says, we're not going to fucking help you anymore because you let our boy Sarpedion die. Which makes me think of how the politics work of protecting the heroes and not letting your officers die, especially if you are... Could imagine this. You are the conscript army. You're the army that came over out of duty, and you're fighting this war that you don't even really care about, and it's not your wife behind the walls, and then their great leader or battalion doesn't go and protect your great leader or battalion, and so like you lose yours, and I'm like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
I was only barely here.
Yeah.
Because I'm just the foot soldier.
Yeah.
And I played enough Chivalry 2 to know as just a foot soldier, I got my spear. I can't do much. I'm going to walk away if things aren't going well.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but I'm listening to this book by Jonathan Haidt called Why Human Beings Are Split on Politics and Religion, essentially. And he argues, multiple psychologists argue that human beings aren't actual individual thinkers. We are group thinkers.
Yeah.
They're obviously, we all in our garage in the morning while we're working, like, I'm an individual. And it's like, bitch, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You're not.
You're not.
And so that goes into the military as well, is when you're in a group and it's like, oh, someone's messing with the sir. Like, you're going to combine forces because you don't think individually, you think in group.
Yeah.
According to the scientists who have studied this.
Absolutely. That makes sense just based on like all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe your ideas aren't as original as you think they are.
Yeah, we're just echoing and trying to change. So it Hector's taking off the armor. Zeus is pretty mad at him for taking over the armor. He's like, you're lucky I can't kill you right now because like I've already destined your fate, essentially. But if I could, I'd kill you now because why boast? Why wear the armor?
I totally would if I could.
Isn't it enough that you just essentially, killed him? And we get some interesting lines from Zeus. We'll talk about Zeus a few times tonight, I think, or at least some of the gods, because they're quotes about man and the nature of like mortal men. There's a lot of, because Patroclus's death rings through the whole rest of the book.
Oh, interesting.
It's the main feature of the rest of the book, as we'll...
Really?
Yes, absolutely. It's the only thing that matters to the rest of the book. His death and Hector's death. So we get like weird descriptions that I think are interesting. So for one, it says, "From Zeus, for surely there's nothing more pitiable than a man among all the creatures that breathe and creep on this earth." So the idea that men, in my mind, the way I read that, gods feel the worst for men because we're aware of mortality. We're aware of our emotions, and we're able to do these great and terrible things. And that makes everyone feel bad for us more than like a lizard.
Yeah, and I think that concept would provide need for a god.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Someone to balance the scales. And...
Yeah. If you were, I mean, they do the same thing in Genesis, dude. I read recently, which, a lot going on in Genesis. But Genesis, right? There's this idea of creation and uncreation. And this idea that God is like, okay, cool, I'm going to let human beings do what they want. And when human beings don't have God, they are disgusting, bro. It's gross.
Because of Morgoth.
Yeah, it is because of Morgoth.
Ardamard, man.
It's crazy. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that. The Iliad.
The Iliad. It's a book. It existed. It still exists. All right, so then we get kind of we'll kind of start wrapping up this chapter. I don't want to focus too much on this chapter because it's not the fun stuff. But we do have some housekeeping things that we should prepare for the end of the book, which is things like Achilles' chariot, right? Patroclus was driving Achilles' chariot. And they need to get that back as well. They can't just get Patroclus back, which they can't right now, right? They literally, the picture that we have on here is underselling tremendously what's going on. But I like the other picture we have, the one that's in full color.
That one's pretty cool.
Where it's just a bunch of people falling over. It looks like a football game.
It's carnage.
It's a rugby game. It's the...
Yeah.
What do you call
people tackling
each
other.
Scrum.
The scrum. That's a good word.
Yes, that's what it looks like. And they're also thinking through, they're like, Achilles is literally going to kill us. He might kill us just for coming back and telling him that Patroclus is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a real possibility. This is what I mean when the Greeks know that Patroclus' death means that Achilles might join them, but it also might not, right? He might just get mad and kill everybody. And so they're playing with this. And Menelaus and Ajax are like, we have to get Patroclus back if Achilles is going to fucking fight for us.
Yeah.
We need to make this happen. And we need to get his horses back. If we lose his horses and all the horse listing that we've done, that's a big deal. There's been so many horse lists.
Horse listing that we've
There's
done.
more horse listing to be done in this story.
I believe you.
Non-stop horse listing. It's hard. It's probably the hardest thing for me to read is the horse list by far of anything.
And your boy Peter does that?
He has to. It's translate. That's how you translate it. You got to translate it. And you put a note and be like, it's just another list, friend. I'm here with you through it all. No, he doesn't do any of that.
But we do.
Something that we started talking about when we first did the horse listing, which is the importance of horses. It's so important that two guys, Automedon and Alki, they tell Ajax, who's like the strongest fucking dude besides Achilles, right? The tower of a shield, and Menelaus, who is one of the great officers, to leave the body to go get the chariot.
All right, so the body's going bye-bye, but Achilles is about to be pissed, right?
No, Automedon and Alki say that they got it. They're like, we'll do this. We'll get the body. But it's just interesting that the two more famous people, Ajax and Menelaus, who both have had godlike moments so far, right? They both have had these moments where they just slay people for multiple minutes.
But this is not one of those moments.
No, but it shows that if you're going to put both of your heavy hitters to go get the horses and trusting two lesser known officers that just kind of appeared to get the body back, that's how important the horses are. That
Got it.
That you have to get the horses back.
Got it.
Achilles would be mad if you left either one of them for the body over the horses.
Horses are a big deal.
Horses are a big deal.
Yeah.
Because Patroclus will have a 12-day funeral.
Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
Horses.
Makes sense. It's the only way you can move around. Okay, so anyway, they are able to get it back, essentially. Automedon has like this fight with this guy, Eretos, and he boasts over him, and I'll read the boast because there's a lot of good boasting in chapter 17 because there's so much blood, there's so much killing, and there's a lot of people talking over the bodies of other people before they themselves get slain. And this one is memorable. Indeed, if only a little, I've eased my heart of its grief for Menoetius' son. Menoetius' son is Patroclus. Though it was a lesser man that I killed.
Damn.
That's a pretty cold-ass thing to say over someone's body. So they drag the body away, essentially is how this chapter is going to end. Okay? So we had Patroclus. He died. Hector strips the armor, but he's unable to defile the body. And the Greeks are able to, after a long, long fight, get the body and the chariot back, which they need. And they fucking send this guy, they send like a foot soldier, essentially, like, hey, you should go tell Achilles. And you could just read it in the lines of the foot soldier being like, I would rather not be the one to tell Achilles.
Yeah, don't kill the messenger.
Exactly. But then we go into book 18 and 19. We can kind of cover these ones together. Achilles is going to be real sad.
Achilles? Sad.
He's sad. And Achilles has no armor because Hector took it.
So are we going into emo mode again?
Oh, he's emo for sure.
Or is this in rage? Are we raging or emo mode?
Well, let me give you a quote from the very beginning.
Did it.
This is Achilles as soon as he learns. A black cloud of grief closed over Achilles. With both hands he gathered up the dark, grimy dust, scattered it over his head, befouled his handsome features, and on his fragrant tunic the black ash settled. There, stretched in the dust, great in his greatness he lay. With his own hands he tore and defiled his hair. Those maid servants won as spoils by Achilles and Patroclus shrieked aloud in their heartfelt anguish, ran out of doors, stood around warlike Achilles, all with their hands beat on their breasts. Their limbs of all were weakened.
So it's the Spider-Man 3, where he's walking around with the fucking Peter Parker with the black hair, with the dumb dancing.
People not getting Spider-Man 3 just bums me out. Like, Sam Raimi is a genius for doing Evil Dead and then the Spider-Man trilogy. The original Evil Dead is so much fun, and so is the Spider-Man.
Army of Darkness is arguably one of the best films of all time.
It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Fucking asshole.
Even
my boomstick.
Even Evil Dead 2, which is just Evil Dead 1.
Yes.
It's great.
All right. Where are we?
So we were showing Achilles' grief.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's being sad. That's very emo. What you just read is very emo.
I like it.
It's dope.
I like
it is emo.
Oh, for sure it's emo, but that's why I like Achilles a little bit more. He's throwing dirt in his hair.
Yeah.
And the hair is kind of, I didn't go too deep into it because I've tried not to read too much analysis of the Iliad itself because I don't want to color my own interpretation of it for the podcast. I'm trying to make this so that my friends and your friends that didn't get degrees in English could understand the book. And so I'm trying to just like read it and talk about it.
Because I did not get a degree in English.
Well, because it's different, right? If you read a bunch of analysis from academics, you're going to sound like an academic talking
Kevin,
about this shit.
I would not read the Iliad if it weren't for you, friend.
So there is something about his hair. Like, I think he made a promise before he left that he wasn't going to cut it until something happened. So, like, him defiling it.
The hair.
Hair's a big deal.
It is.
In Greek culture specifically.
No, I get it.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Not in every culture. You think cultures where they go bald quickly, they're like, fuck hair.
Yeah.
Germans are like, hair's whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say all the, like, miserable cold countries.
Staying warm is important. So he's freaking out. He's not doing well. They're afraid that he's literally going to kill himself.
Damn. Suicide watch.
And Antiochus, he's also worried that he might get killed. Like it says the fear that he might cut his throat with his knife. So it's not going well.
We're reaching quite the climax here.
Yes. Basically, he wails so hard that his mom, who is a sea nymph, hears him and is like, that's not good. I'm going to gather up my forces here. And they go and talk to him. And they realize that divine intervention essentially needs to happen.
Divine.
So this is where we should pause the story for a second before the armor shit comes in.
Okay.
Achilles told us a couple books ago, right, when he's having the campfire thing and Odysseus comes to him and they're like, you need to come with us. And he's like, listen, I'm going to die here. Like, it's foretold that I will die here. So I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. Something we haven't talked about is that there is still hope. He still has hope. His hope is based on people like Heracles. Him and his mom have the same hope. And Song of Achilles really helped me understand this. The hope is, if I do something so good and so grand that when I die, they're going to make me a god.
Yeah.
They have that ability.
I like it.
And they did it for Hercules. And it's not said a bunch of times in the text, but after reading Song of Achilles and then reading Peter Green's translation, I see it a lot more, that they want to make sure Achilles goes out swinging so that there's a possibility that he becomes a god.
Would you say that this is the idea of like not dying in vain?
Sure. Yeah, it's Valhalla.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a warrior's death.
This is the idea of bringing meaning to sacrifice of all this.
Especially battle-based sacrifice.
100%.
Yes.
This is I'm telling you, man, what I am personally getting from this, what you're just talking about right now, is the whole trope in movies of like, we're going to go back and get him, we won't die in vain.
Yep.
Like that idea. That's what I'm getting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And since I've been reading so much Tolkien, there's 2 Tolkien words, because he makes so many words, that absolutely go with this. Like Aragorn's real name is Estel, which is hope.
Right, hope. Yeah.
But it's hope with a purpose. It's not just hope.
Right.
Hope with a purpose. You knew that?
Dude, everybody knows that. That's crazy that you're getting that deep, but that's dope.
But it's hope with a purpose. So they have real hope. He's not just going to die. He has hope.
Because hope can be foolish.
It's not foolish hope. It's not blind hope. And Tolkien has characters talk about like the difference between the two.
Of course he does.
And it's also, divine intervention is eucatastrophe. So that's the Tolkien word for it, right? So
really?
Yeah, eucatastrophe. I love eucatastrophe. It's the belief that like something will fix this. If I do what I'm supposed to do. That like things kind of might work out. And both of those words are at play with Achilles here and his mom. His mom hates that he's mortal. His mom fucking despises it. And Song of Achilles also does a great job explaining to you how much she hates that he's mortal. Because she didn't want to marry and have kids with that mortal, but she was forced to from Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember from like the first section of
these
this.
half-breeds over here.
Yeah, because Zeus wanted the prophecy to play out, but he wanted it to play out safely.
That's some Dune shit.
That is some Dune shit. That is some Bene Gesserit
That's
shit
Dune
from
shit.
Zeus. Whoa. And he would have read this because Atreides, Atreus,
bro,
it's all the same shit.
He dropped acid and read Iliad for funsies. That's a Saturday.
Have you read his description of taking acid?
No.
It's pretty fun. Somebody sent him acid because he's like, I want to try it. And then and his wife's like, I don't think you should take acid in the library. He's like, I'm going to take it in the library. Their little library they have. It's fun.
Oof.
It's all right. It was like, it's standard.
Yeah, he just tripped.
Yeah, that's fine. Achilles' mom wants him to become a god. So she is telling him that she will get him new armor. And this armor is going to be pretty good. They end up getting this armor. And before they can go into battle, because he doesn't have the armor yet, she has to go get it made. All the Greeks are like, we need Patroclus back still because we don't have him back yet. We're kind of winning, but it's pretty bloody out there. We got the chariots. That's cool. We got your chariot and your horses. And so Achilles goes out naked towards the battle.
He's hanging dong?
Yes. In my mind, at least. Absolutely.
I bet.
Just a massive dong. Because he's Achilles. And he just shouts 3 times.
What does that sound like?
Patroclus!
Yeah. I'm getting big dick energy for sure.
So let me describe to you the language you use and see if that
All right.
matches this.
Send it to me.
Achilles goes into battles and shouts 3 times. It caused so much panic, Trojans died. His scream was so frightful. This is a part of the translation.
It costs.
So it's not exactly clear. So let me back it up. He shouts 3 times. The Trojans freak out. And in the text it says 12 Trojans die. And so Peter Green, he goes through this. It's like one of his longer entries into his notes. And he's like, listen, we don't know what this means. We don't know how they died. And after I read through it, I'm like, they died because of the scream.
Yeah, it's loud as fuck.
I'm not going to say anything else. Anything else is lame. Oh, they got trampled. Oh. No.
It was loud as fuck, friend. It was the scene in Oppenheimer.
It was the scene in Oppenheimer.
When they dropped the bomb, they're like,
Yes.
oh, the audience doesn't know it's coming yet. That.
Yes. Some academics maintain that he was obviously squished. They were squished in panic, but no, they died of fear. They were ring wraiths. They were the Nazgul.
Ever seen the movie The Ring?
I love the ring.
Those are people dying of fear, no?
Yes.
Essentially?
I think
That was
so.
my interpretation.
At least the first one.
For
It's
all
like-
yes. For all
Yes.
intents and purposes, when you see that person, you die of fear.
Yes.
Right?
She scares you.
Yes.
I like that.
Email us.
It's ambiguous.
Email us. battlebuddiespod@gmail.com.
So, 12 Trojans die from fear. The other Trojans are going to kind of back up a little bit from that. Achilles doesn't even need to fight. He's so scary that he just has to scream and show his pee-pee. And people are like, whoa, scary stuff.
Screaming and hanging dong.
And they're able to get Patroclus back.
He's about to get Achilles.
Nice.
Thank you.
And they get the chariot and they get the horses. We also get some descriptions. We get this guy, Polydamas.
Mm-hmm.
But I like how Polydamas is described. He's described as having the ability to see forwards and backwards. This is one of my favorite.
Time? Are we saying time?
Well,
or is it
that-
like literal forwards and backwards?
I think it's implied time. So
Sick.
it's related, I think, to a later Roman god, Janus, or I guess a Greek god.
Really?
But Janus is my favorite god, January. January is Janus. The reason why Janus is at the start of the year, because there was a bridge. And as you cross the bridge, you go past the statue of Janus, who has 2 heads. One's young, one's old. Because Janus looks at your future and your past. And that is wisdom. You have to have wisdom to be able to see your past to impact your future.
Mm.
And so I have my students every year in January make New Year's resolutions to Janus. Because we talk about Janus doing
Sick.
that. And like, you try to do better than you did last year. So you think back of last year, you do better.
Yes,
this
there
year.
is a point to this.
Absolutely.
It's not just getting drunk on until midnight.
No. Till midnight. I don't think I could drink till
No,
midnight.
I don't think any of our friends could anymore.
Our friends definitely could.
My apologies. We have a lot of friends who actively do that.
So Polydamas, he is telling, he's very scared of Achilles' rage. He's a Trojan. And he's saying, hey, Hector, this isn't good. You know these camps that we set up along the ridge of the Greek camps? Remember a couple episodes ago, the whole night raids and shit?
Yep.
These camps are still occupied. This is why the story's fantastic, because the ending goes back to all this stuff that we've been getting.
They're gonna tie a lot of
They're
loose ends.
tying them all up. So they have
Okay.
these outposts, and Polydamas is like, hey, we only did this because Achilles wasn't fighting. Like, literally, that's why we were able to do this, why we haven't been able to do this for 10 years. We should go back to our city. But it's been 10 years of being stuck in a city, and Hector's like, fuck that, dude. Like, you really want to go back into our city?
Fuck that guy.
And so he says, no. And they don't. And that ends up being pretty bad.
Yeah.
Then we have that same night, Achilles talking to his Myrmidons.
Fucking.
Ah, me, vain indeed were the words I uttered that day, reassuring the hero Menoetis in our halls. I'd said I'd bring his son home to Opius, wreathed in glory from the sacking of Ilion. With his fair share of the spoils, But not all their designs does Zeus fulfill for mortals. We too are both fated to redden the self-same earth here in Troy, since I too shall never come back home, to be welcomed by the old horseman Peleus in his halls, or by Thetis my mother. The earth will hold me here forever. So Achilles is dropping some bars.
So give me a Kevin translation.
Yeah, Kevin translation here. What he's saying is that Patroclus, which is the son of Menoetius, Patroclus is dead, and he promised Patroclus' father that he'd bring him back. So he's like, listen, I fucking broke a promise. And he's saying it that I got the blessing of Zeus. You know, I made sacrifices. But Zeus is a little finicky. He doesn't fulfill all of your promises, like all of your things, which is
gods
kind of
be like
this
that.
is God's. This
Gods
is
be like
praying
that.
to gods. They will answer your prayer sometimes, not every time, not all of it. And then he's reminding everybody that he's also going to die here, and that he's going to bleed on this ground right here. Even if he becomes a god, he still has to die here, and becoming a god, he'll never be able to see his dad again.
Human
and he loves his
blood
dad.
needs to be spilled.
Yes.
Interesting.
Which I like.
I think it's a common theme in these. Yeah.
It gets even more intense. But now, Patroclus, since the earth will claim me later than you, I'll not bury you until I've brought here Hector's armor and head, he the killer of your mighty heart, and in front of your pyre I shall cut the throats of 12 noble Trojan youths. So enraged I am at your slaying.
He's gonna kill kids?
He's gonna kill 12 kids. He also, I'll just spoiler, he does.
He kills
He's gonna
12 kids.
He's gonna capture 12
Beautiful,
Trojan
blonde-haired, blue-eyed.
I know it's Greek, ancient Greece, but just imagine 12 little Christian boys. It will help you understand culturally what he's saying here.
For sure.
He's also gonna slay some horses. He's gonna just kill a lot of people because to make it right for Patroclus. That'll make it right for Patroclus.
And that will make it right, listener. That will make it right. It's the only thing
Yeah, sure.
that'll atone our sins.
So then Thetis hears this unmoved. She's like, oh, I'm a god, so this is about correct.
Yeah. Par.
All the Myrmidons are like, the 12-year-old boy thing, it's fine.
That's a Thursday.
No one paused on that one.
Yeah, no.
They're Trojans after all.
Right.
So Thetis, his mother, goes to Hephaestus, and that's the blacksmith guy. And she had kept him safe as a boy or something. Hephaestus, he has a fucked up story. His story deserves its own stuff because he's kind of, they call him lame, right? Because one of his legs is all messed up. Because Zeus spun him around like a whirlwind and like threw him down from Olympus as a joke or something.
As a joke.
It's fucked up.
It's one of those funny jokes.
And so like he can't walk great. And so they're like you're so lame.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's where lame
Look at
comes
this
from.
lame
That's
ass.
where lame comes from, not being able to move. Not being able to walk.
Wow. I use lame pretty regularly.
Yeah, lame means unable to walk.
Wow.
And it's kind of, we're messed up, man.
You can't unlame a lame.
You can't unlearn that for sure. Because I don't say lame as much as I used to. Anyway.
Yeah.
So she like kept him safe. It's not incredibly clear, but what's important is that he's in her debt. So she's a pretty good god because she's racked up a lot of debts from people. And so he is like, okay, I'll do this for you. And we get some fun stuff. In his blacksmith stuff, he has like these naked golden robot females that are servant things.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and it's like, this is kind of fun.
Robots?
Well, they're like golden naked women that do what he asks. They're like, he enchants them to help him with his smithy and stuff because he's lame.
That's because he's lame.
That's why.
That's funny.
Then we get some dress up stuff. The main thing about Achilles' armor, his new armor, this God-given armor, that everybody has to know if you want to pretend that you've read the Iliad, is his shield.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to go over all of his shield because it's so long.
Is that legit?
This is what
Is this like a legit recreation?
I believe so.
Open up
It's
your phone if
pretty
you're on
close.
Spotify. We got a picture of the shield.
The shield. The shield is the main thing. It goes on for so long. I got lost so many times in what's happening. It's very complex. It's multiple events between multiple cities, and it's these stories about these cities and the events of the cities.
Really? Like
And-
people could write entire books about just the shield?
Supposedly, you could look at this and understand, because of these like iconography or whatever you would call it, like these pictures represent like tropes and ideas that you could piece together a story.
Wow.
Kind of like the urns, right? Like pottery, like Greek pottery and Roman pottery.
For sure. Or just fucking hieroglyphics and shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's wild. It's fun to read. It's confusing. And while I was reading, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to describe this
Yeah,
on the podcast.
listener, if you're can't see, it is this shield, this supposed shield is just a highly detailed, a bunch of people, see a lot of like figurines, whether they be gods or humans or whatever the case may be, and there's levels to it.
Yeah.
There's rings to it.
There's
and
rings
it
to
goes
it.
in and it's crazy.
Yes. I don't even know. I tried to find better ways of describing it, but it's just too hard. We do know that his shield has like 8 layers. It's 8 layers thick. Some of them have silver, some of them have gold. And it's just God stuff, right? Because it is important to know about ancient warfare that shields are layered hides. And sometimes you have a bronze layer also in it. And so when a spear hits you, if those hides were cured very well, if they were, correctly put together, then it should be able to stop it. Like not all the layers will stop a spear, but hopefully by the end, your last one will. So the more money you have, the better, layering you will have. Because you can't put too many layers or else you can't lift it up. Right. It'll be too hard to lift. So his is very good now, essentially. There is some like funny translation debates going on, but honestly, not that important. But we get another description of his armor. He forged him a corselet more bright than the blaze of fire, and forged him a heavy helmet to fit his temples closely, a fine piece, cunningly wrought, with a golden crest set on it, and lastly fashioned him greaves made out of plate tin. So what we get there is the basic, what we think of when we think of Greek soldiers. We have the breastplate, and we have the helmet that is close cropped to their head. Brad Pitt's armor in Troy is honestly not that far off from what I imagined.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it should be. This is his armor before he gets stripped off Patroclus, so he should have new armor that's brighter, but I kind of see it, right? And then the greaves, so those are shin guards, which will be important later on. It's so beautiful that, like, when Achilles puts it on, the Myrmidons can't look at him. Just can't look at you. Like, you're so glorious right now. It's so obvious that you have God-given stuff right now.
This is also stuff in the Bible as well.
Oh.
Yeah. There's like, for instance, when Moses comes down the mountain, Mount Sinai, I believe he's so glowing after seeing God, they can't look at him. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Unknowable, right? You can't look at unknowable things. You can't learn unknowable things.
Oh, that's fun.
That's how I see it. Achilles then asks his mom to keep Patroclus' body from decaying. She does this. She puts ambrosia on his body secretly so that his body won't decay from like worms and maggots, because he's got a killing to do, and he can't do it if Patroclus is decaying. We also get some interesting Greek culture. It describes very briefly that Patroclus' feet are pointed towards the door. Now, this is, according to Peter Green, a reference to a fact that because his life was taken prematurely, this is him preparing for the adventure of death. Like he's getting ready to leave the door.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So feet towards the door when you're dead. Achilles has to make right with Agamemnon before he can go to battle, obviously. So he goes to Agamemnon. He, essentially saying like, we were crazy to ever be fighting. We got killing to do. And Agamemnon is interesting, right? He's both the authority figure, but he's also wounded from Achilles because Achilles has hurt his authority. So he's kind of in a precarious spot in my mind. And what I like is that when he's talking to Achilles in front of their men, he's seated. And he's seated for 2 reasons. To fight those 2 things I just talked about, right? His authority and the fact that Achilles has messed his authority. He's seated because he was wounded in our last episode. when he went up to the gates of Ilion by himself and had a pretty intense fight.
Sounds lame.
Oh, there you go. I think he could definitely stand. I think this is political.
Okay.
So he's sitting there to say, I don't need to stand like you because I'm technically in charge. And while you were sitting there not battling, I was out there fighting.
Damn.
Good political move.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Good political move.
Alexander the Great is reading this, taking notes,
Mhm.
right? Modern military generals are like, oh, these are things we should pay attention to. Like that's a baller, like a positional authority move. I have more positional authority than you because I can't stand, even though I probably can.
That's awesome.
So then Agamemnon is going to blame, not himself, because he can't blame himself and lose the credibility that he's gaining by sitting down. So instead, he's going to blame Delusion, Zeus's oldest daughter. Delusion sits on your forehead. Delusion doesn't walk on the ground. Delusion walks on your head. And she deludes you.
Really?
Yeah, and so he was saying, she treads on the heads of men, damaging mortal minds, has trapped others before me. So it's not my fault I was
Wow.
deluded.
That really is truly where we get the word delusion?
Yeah.
Like literally?
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? But I love this God. I love the idea that you can own a mistake and being like, I'm just human and things are weird when you're a human. And so
Yeah.
I was wrong. Delusion walked on my head.
I was deluded.
I was deluded.
Whoa.
I like it.
That's crazy.
I'm liking this genius stuff, this muse stuff of just separating yourself a little bit from everything you do. Like take ownership, yes, but also like it's wacky being a human.
It's complicated.
We want to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I see kids every day fight from their honesty because they can't take the gaze from, I know they're scared of the gaze from me of like revealing themselves as like a fuck up. And even though I try to soften it, it's hard. And I get it. As a kid, I didn't want to do it either.
Yep. Yeah, I said the exact same thing. A parenting moment recently happened, and the conversation ended with my wife saying, I think at the end of the day, it's complicated being a human being.
It is. It's so complicated.
Yes.
So let's believe in the Greek gods. Fucking make it easier, man.
Yeah, that's less complicated.
Yeah.
It's not delusional.
So Agamemnon says, I will still give you all the gifts I promised you. Remember, the gift giving list is long and tedious.
Distinguished.
And Achilles is like, I'm going to die anyway. Sure, give me your gifts if that's what's right. I don't super care. But Agamemnon is like, I have to do this right. I have to like make sure that this part isn't a fuck up because this is do or die for us. So he makes Odysseus, the smartest man in Greece, measure out in Agamemnon's boat all of the promises to make sure they're all perfect.
Cool. Count the dollar bills.
And having a third party do it.
Yes.
Watchdog.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. As a teacher, I try to always have watchdog things happen.
Like a non-biased third party.
Right. Or even, when I tell the stories about like me getting challenged on books and stuff, it's honestly not that bad. It's kind of cool that like people are like, thanks for reading the book.
Yeah, I needed another set of eyes on that.
Like it,
dude, I've had multiple times to bring it into military perspective. I have had sergeants chew me out so bad beforehand. They have other sergeants be like,
yes,
can you come and just watch me chew this person out so I don't take things too out of hand?
Yes.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
And so this is Agamemnon showing what a real ruler is, like know when to divvy up and to not do, it's easy in the position of authority, just be like, okay, here's your shit.
Of course, dude.
Because that guy doesn't care, you don't care, but everybody else cares.
Yes.
And you have to pay attention to that if you want to win in politics.
This is a good leadership thing. Brene Brown, who wrote Dare to Lead, she needs to take notes, huh?
Well, I don't know.
I don't either.
That's so bad.
That's to our female base,
Sure.
Our more progressive base. I don't know.
The main thing here, besides whatever the hell Spencer just said, we get a couple important things here. We get that Agamemnon orders everyone. Remember, we've learned kind of when the Trojans got past the Greek lines through the ramparts, and that there's quite a bit of reserve troops, people kind of hanging out. He orders everyone to be on the line tomorrow.
He knows
Everyone's going to go battle.
But you guys said, not just everyone.
Everyone. So that's important because there's going to be no reserve troops. No more reserves. Everybody's out.
Tumbleweeds.
Do or die.
Tumbleweeds are happening in the reserve lines.
Yes. Yeah. No more reserve lines. And Briseis, she comes out because she gets freed, right? And she sees Patroclus. She loses her shit. So she flung herself on him, keening shrilly, her hands tearing her breasts and tender neck and lovely face. And amid her weeping, this woman, so like a goddess, exclaimed, "Patroclus, in my misery, the man most dear to my heart." Now stop there for a second.
Wait, so what'd she do to her breasts?
She just starts clawing at him.
She's just
ripping them up.
Rubbing her boobies?
No, she's not rubbing them. She's clawing them.
Clawing her boobies?
She's tearing the skin open.
Word?
Yes.
That's intense.
Dude. But the question is, she's a slave. This is where the complication with Briseis comes in. She's a slave. Her family was murdered by Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
And then Achilles took her as his slave woman, bedchamber woman.
Yeah. See, this makes more sense than just a passerby sentence in the first Star Wars when he's like, "We're slaves."
Yes.
It's like, dude, that's a massive deal, dude.
This is very complicated.
Yeah. Being a slave is a huge deal, dude.
Yes. And a slave at this time where she was from a well-to-do family.
Yeah.
That family was conquered through a raid by a warrior of high acclaim. What does this mean? Patroclus, who is probably the lover of Achilles too, she loves him. And so is she putting on a front for Achilles? Or was Patroclus the one who saved her from harsh punishments? There's many ways to look at this. And she kind of describes that Patroclus had convinced her to essentially accept her role and that he was going to make Achilles marry her. And that she accepted that. Like, that's her lot in life. And again, I recommend the 1,000 ship story from the author that I read. Because that one's all about the women's perspectives. And what do you do when all the men in your family are murdered and you're taken as a hostage? Because you're kind of noble-born. It's weird. And you have to accept a lot of fucked up shit, like probably marrying some dude who killed your dad.
I mean, I was gonna ask you, like, is there anything in your personal life where you feel like I can't use the word forced, but it's a role where you're like, holy shit, man, that's like an intense role that I did not necessarily like, or it could even be something that you're good at that you don't necessarily like, but you are good at.
Well, a lot of teaching.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, I don't agree with a lot of this.
Yeah.
Or I don't want this much authority over people. But I get in trouble and could lose my job if I'm not monitoring where kids are at all times. And so then I have to. I'm like,
there we go.
What I want.
There we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good example.
Okay, so I find that to be very interesting. She ends it with saying, "I mourn your death without cease. You were always kind of me."
I mourn your death without cease. That's a fun way to put that.
It is. I mean, not for her.
But I mean, I enjoy those words.
Sure. All right, let's we'll end this one with Achilles putting on his armor, because this is classic heroic literature. "The greaves first he fastened on about his shins, finely worked, and fitted with silver ankle pieces. Next, to cover his chest, he put on the corslet. About his shoulders he slung the silver-studded sword of bronze. Then came the shield, both huge and sturdy, from which gleamed afar a brightness like the moon's. As out at sea the gleam is visible to sailors of a burning fire, one alight high up in the mountains, in some lonely farmhouse, but they cannot stop the gale from driving them over the teeming deep, far distant from their friends. So a gleam went skyward from Achilles' shield, so fine, so intricate. Then he lifted the mighty helmet and set it upon his head. It shone like a star, this helmet with horsehair crest, and around it there waved the lovely gold plumes that Hephaestus had set thick about its crown." It's going to continue on like that for a long time.
Every kiss begins with K.
Dude, he's loving this armor.
Yeah, it's felt like a jewelry commercial.
It is. A lot of shining. His helmet shining like a star literally is shining like a star for the whole rest of the book.
Yeah.
people are like, "Is a star attacking me?" That's Achilles about to murder you.
That's like really for real. People are like that. They're like, "Oh, star's coming."
Yeah, like it's
Oh,
glowing. Like
goodness.
something's
Okay.
glowing at me. But it's also because he's so fast.
Yeah.
No one's as fast as him. And he also, we get in this description that he's using now, because Patroclus used a normal spear. Achilles doesn't need no normal spear. He's going to use his father's spear that was specially made, I think, by a god. And the spear, no other human, or no other Greek, I think is the word they use, but essentially no other person can wield it because it's so big.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like a Thor's hammer situation, kind of.
Yes, but because of like the size. The size is just so long. And remember Hector's, we were laughing at the size of that one. That one was like, 12 feet or something like that. And he's whipping that thing around and nobody else can really even lift it. It's kind of like that. The size of your spear matters.
It does matter.
It does matter to some people.
I always thought it was more of like a thickness thing than a length thing.
Or like the motion.
Yeah, that's true.
Nope. This one embodies death for heroes. That's what the spear embodies. Oh, Chiron made it. Chiron the centaur. Because Chiron knew Achilles' father.
Is Chiron the dude from Hercules?
I think that's supposed to be a Chiron.
Right?
Yeah.
Sick. Phil.
I like Song of Achilles Chiron. He's cool. Okay, I have one more line of book 19 because it's just fun. Achilles goes up to his horses for his chariot as he's getting ready to battle. So he's like literally glowing. He's like an elf in Lord of the Rings. He's just like, "Oh, I'm Glorfindel. Like, this is crazy." And he goes up to the horse. He's like, "Hey, don't leave me behind like fucking Patroclus." He says that to his horse. And then his horse is given the ability to speak.
No.
Yes.
It's a BoJack Horseman situation.
Dude, it's so good. And then the horse answers him that it was God's fault and that Achilles is also going to die soon and then loses the ability to speak again.
Can you imagine this in a fucking Ridley Scott movie, bro?
I can imagine a Sam Raimi movie and I would love every second of it.
Sam Raimi would crush this.
He would love this
sure.
moment. He'd be like, "Can we make it scary?" Like,
Yeah.
Yes, you can make
Please,
it scary.
make it, but also make it funny.
He made Doc Ock very scary in Spider-Man 2. Like, in terms of the horror. Anyway. Book 20. Things take a turn. Things are different now. Because Achilles is back. And Achilles hasn't been back the whole book. He's been gone. But before Achilles joins the battle, Zeus has a meeting with all the gods. And he's pitying all the men dying. But he's also pretty excited about shenanigans. Zeus loves shenanigans. He loves shenanigans from his gods. Although he's, threatened to punish gods throughout because he wants things done a certain way from this destiny, because he wants a certain number of people to die, he loves god shenanigans.
Likes drama.
Yes, he just wants them to be silly gooses.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because how many Greek myths are silly? Well, they can only happen if the leader god allows it to happen. So this is a quality he needs.
Oh, interesting.
But I find it interesting that he also pities men. Like, he pities the dying of mortals while also loving shenanigans that usually involves the dying of mortals. But those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
I was going to say, like, death is, I think, something that in stories they try to teach is just, it's part of it.
Yeah.
It happens.
It just happens. Whatever Zeus wants. So he says to all the gods, "Hey, no more rules. Go down there, have some fun. Do whatever you want." And this is the book, this one and some of the early ones, like when Poseidon actually takes Poseidon form and, fights with his Poseidon sword, and everyone's like, "Is that Poseidon?" This book and that book and some of the other ones are why some people have a hard time with gritty interpretations of the Iliad. Like, you're missing the fun. There's gods running around, like literally running around slapping each other, and it's pretty fun to read. But it's interesting because the gods, they're like, "Dope, we're down," and they all jump down, but they can't immediately just start killing people because they're so well balanced essentially that there's other gods to counteract them, and so they kind of get locked up almost immediately, which is probably for the best, but it's interesting. Achilles is now just killing people. He's going to be killing people until he goes back to Patroclus. And whenever I'm not talking about it, I'm not talking about something else. Just know that at this time Achilles is also killing people.
Okay.
Hand over fist. He cannot be stopped. He's so fast. He has this long spear, but his speed is the thing that is just truly terrifying. And makes sense. Playing Chivalry 2, I've been playing the Spearman a lot. I fucking love the Spearman. I didn't think I would. The Spearman seems to be boring, right? You can't like swing it, you can't slash with it.
Yeah.
But it turns out if you just stand back and you just stab people from far away and you stab somebody with a pointy stick from far away, they die.
It's a good maneuver.
It's really good. You're safe and they are not safe.
It's like a long range, like within proximity.
Yeah.
It's a nice little long range weapon. Yeah.
It is. It's pretty crazy. And then you can throw it.
Yeah.
And then you
People
can
get
also
good at it on that game.
Yeah. I'm not, but I love throwing mine. I like throwing it and just picking up random other weapons, start throwing those. I have a lot of fun doing that.
I love that game.
Other things that we need to know. So there's one of the rivers, right? There's two rivers that come out of Troy that the Greeks are kind of in between. And the one that we haven't really talked about is what they call the Scamander River. I've talked about it once or twice.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So that's the one closest to Troy, I think. It's also called Xanthos by the gods. So the gods call that river Xanthos, but the mortals call it Scamander. It's just in case I call it one name or the other, because it comes important a little bit later. Scamander. And really, the way it's translated by Peter Green is Scamandros, but I know that that's not how Fagels translates it. Most people probably know Scamander. So the gods and the men, they form two great lines, and then they just charge. It's the thing you've been waiting for. You've been going every night this week to see Homer, talk, and you're drinking with your friends, and you get to read all your favorite gods lining up, and they just run. It's awesome.
Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
It's for sure Goku going Super Saiyan against Frieza. It's
for
like
5 episodes.
I've been waiting for this.
Yes.
And Aeneas, who's the Trojan that will eventually found Rome, essentially, right? The mythical Rome. He runs out into the middle to meet Achilles first, so they go before everybody. It's awesome. And they had fought once before, we learned, ending with Achilles stabbing Aeneas. So Achilles starts shit-talking him. And I like Aeneas' response. He says, "Son of Peleus, don't try to frighten me like a child with mere words, since I too know very well myself how to frame the language of taunts and unseemly abuse."
Like, if you want to talk shit, I can talk shit.
I know how to talk shit,
Yeah,
dude.
I can talk about all that good shit if you want.
I've talked shit before in my life. I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I like that. So it ends with Aeneas hitting Achilles' shield with the spear. It rings out loudly. You get that a lot with the god weapon description I find in the Iliad is the noise that it makes, which is it reminds me of like Zack Snyder stuff, right? You see the sound wave and then there's bright lights for 20 minutes.
That's true.
And I see that a lot in Homer through the sound, because every time you hit like Achilles' armor at any point, it rings out and the sound cascades, that kind of stuff. So it keeps going. It doesn't go through his shield. It gets stopped by one of the layers. And then Achilles throws his spear, and it goes right through Aeneas' shield and keeps going, gets stuck in the ground behind him, which is just like a cool image, because these shields are thick, and Aeneas is he's a noble-born. This guy is legit. He's going to found a whole nation. And Achilles throws his spear so hard that it just goes through it, just like it was a piece of paper.
Damn.
I think you're really supposed to fear Achilles right there if you are growing up in that time. Like, what would you do? Imagining your shield being nothing more than paper.
Yeah.
So then Aeneas grabs a rock, and then Achilles grabs his sword, and they're like jumping for each other. It's like a freeze frame. Then Peter Gabriel is like, this is literally a freeze frame in an action film.
Really?
Yeah. Because they're jumping up ready to strike each other, and the gods like freeze them. They're like, freeze! And then it's Poseidon. Poseidon takes Aeneas out. He's like, I'm not going to let you die, because you're for sure going to die. Why are you going up against Achilles? And he says, "Surely mighty Aeneas will reign as king among the Trojans, he and his sons' sons born in time to come."
So this was the divine intervention.
So this is a divine intervention. So it's like a eucatastrophe. Aeneas was doing the right thing. Divine intervention came to save him. And then essentially a prophecy that they're going to the Rome is going to use later to create their origin myth.
Damn.
Clear.
Big stuff.
It's crazy. Poseidon tells Aeneas to just wait for Achilles to die. He's like, listen, if you just hang out and don't fight until Achilles is dead, which will be soon, then you will be the strongest. Which I think also suggests, that's not clear in the text, that Hector will also be dead. Because I'm pretty sure Hector's stronger than Aeneas. But he's saying, like, you want glory? Wait for the strongest guy to die. And
Hold
then
out.
you can get some glory.
Hold out.
Which is fucked up stuff that I kind of like.
Yeah.
I understand this.
I do too.
Hector joins the fight. And I think he says essentially, like, I'm going to try to fight Achilles. And then Apollo has to jump down and be like, don't be dumb. Do I have to tell you not to be dumb? And Hector's like, okay. Achilles goes on his rampage because Aeneas isn't there to stop him, and Hector's not there to stop him. And he's just everywhere. One guy, I think it's one of Priam's sons, he's known for being the fastest foot racer, and he's essentially running up and down the Trojan line, like, one showing off how fast he is, and he's like giving orders and stuff. Achilles chases that guy down and kills him, which was a big deal. They're like, this is the fastest dude we've ever seen.
Dang.
Oh yeah, it's his youngest brother, Polydoros. And Hector has a hard time letting that one slide. Like, that one really fucks with him. So Achilles sees Hector and says, come close that you may the sooner enter destruction's bounds.
Is it about to go down? Is it about to be Hector versus Achilles?
Almost. We're getting very, very close. Hector's response is cool. He says, yet it's true that such matters rest on the knees of the gods, whether I, though the lesser man, may still rob you of life when I cast my spear. It's been sharp enough in the past. So that's the Estelle thing from Tolkien, right? That it's hope, but it's not blind hope. He's like, I've
done it before.
I've stabbed lots of really strong dudes before.
Yeah.
And the only one who really knows what's going to happen is Zeus. And you're not Zeus either. And Zeus fucks with prophecy.
Yeah.
Which...
he likes antics.
He likes antics. We know he likes shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
He also loves graping people.
Graping? Unfortunately, that is accurate.
He's him and Don Draper. Big time grapers.
Oh, God. Don Draper reference.
The only time I tried to watch Mad Men, I'm like, is she going to get draped? That didn't become my phrase. Like, as I was watching it with my friends, like, is she going to get draped right now? And then she would get draped because he just did that.
Scumbag.
He's not good. I had to stop watching. Like, I'm not that.
He's
interested.
a scumbag.
I'm not that interested in him,
dude. When I found out that he was lying about his military service and his name, I was like, "You're a piece of shit, dude. What the fuck?" I
liked when he wrote that big letter about like not smoking cigarettes or something like that, and then kept smoking them. He just did all as like a PR stunt for a thing. I was like, "Damn, you're fucked up."
Well written show.
Yep. Okay, so Achilles attacks him 3 times. Hector saved each time by Apollo. On the 4th time, Achilles says he knows that Apollo is saving him, so Achilles runs off to go kill others. Which I get. Because even if, we take off the gods for a second, he keeps trying to attack from this line, and it's not working. So he's like, well, there's just lots of people I can kill. Like, I can come back to you later.
Yeah.
And so he does. He's described as killing, like, every single Trojan single-handedly. Like, it's not exactly clear, the language, at least the way that I read it, but I kind of see the Trojan line, Achilles, and then the Greek line. That maybe there's some fighting on the wings, but Achilles is just running. He's just running through people. He's described as a demon.
Yeah, that sounds like some Clark Kent Superman shit.
Yes. But demon's the word they use. Peter Green reminds us of something that you and I talked about, actually.
So it's a positive demon.
Yes, or that we need to be careful because demon post-Christianity is different.
Right.
That this could mean like a tremendous spirit, in that Peter Green is very much of the mind that like it's about his spirit, supernatural spirit, that like he's having a God-given moment.
Yeah, a demonstration of something. Like
a
demonstration
cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The earth ran black with blood, and Peleus' son charged on, his invincible hands bespattered with flying gore in his pursuit of glory.
That's cool.
Pretty dope. So he's just killing folk.
Just going at it.
Then we get book 21, the silliest book of this
Really?
part. It's silly.
I see some dong.
Yeah, and some butt. I like the butt. Those are God's butts.
Dong and butt.
So Achilles is essentially pushing back the entire Greek army single-handedly. He's just fucking shit up. And they go back to Xanthos, Scamander, the river. And Achilles splits the army, at least the part that he's against, into a rout. And we know from all of our Dan Carlin listening that routes are when the casualties happen. So this is not a good place to be. You don't want to be in a rout. It's something that I've been learning because I feel like I'm a coward. And so whenever I watch a movie and a foot soldier doesn't immediately run away, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, just run away. But if you impressed upon me, like if you were my sergeant or my lieutenant and you're like, if you run away, you will be killed 100%. If you stay and fight, you will be killed with a probability of 80%. I'd be like, okay, I understand now.
Yeah.
I will stay and fight.
Yeah, you're
simply for the odds.
You're a very literal person.
Well, it's like, I just want to know which one has the better chance.
And that would be the better chance.
That would
fighting.
be the better chance. Fighting
Yeah,
until the last
100%.
possible moment has a better chance.
Yeah, I think they probably drill that into your soul for months and months and months and indoctrinate you
Yeah.
until you have no choice.
Yes. Especially if it's spear fighting.
Yes. Especially if it's spear
Like
fighting.
phalanx fighting,
Oh,
you have
bro.
to. You
You have
have
no
to
choice.
stay. You have no choice. It's so much worse. So then he starts pursuing them across the plains, right? So like there's the river and there's like a long plains before Troy. Just like some flat field. And everyone's fleeing in panic. Half of the Trojans that got split from the route go into the river to try to get past the river. So they're like wading across it. It's deep flowing described. In they splashed with great outcry. The deep streamed resound. Both riverbanks echoed the tumult as they went swimming this way and that, still shouting, spun round by the eddies. So they're having a hard time. They have all this armor on.
Yeah,
A lot of them they're dumping armor.
That sounds awful.
And so Achilles jumps into the water and just starts
And just
stabbing.
hams
He just starts
folks, yeah.
slashing. I think he takes out his sword at this point, but it might still be his spear for a little bit. And he's just, they say that the whole river just turns red. So this is like what's the Japanese director? The guy who does like Seven Samurai. Oh, I want to say his name, but it'll sound
John Woo?
No, it'll sound racist if I say it because I don't know how to say it.
Go for it.
It's Kurizawa. I think that's his name.
Good job.
So he like would pour dye into rivers, like pollute whole rivers to get a shot of
Really?
like a river running with blood. Yeah. But great. Seven Samurai is fantastic.
You're talking about the OG one?
Yeah, like the black and white one.
Yeah. I've
Han
seen
and I
that.
watched it. I was like, this is incredible.
That's really good.
It's
Yeah, we
incredible.
watched that in my film class.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to film classes in college. So he's killing people, and then he captures 12 young boys in the river. And
Oh, he's with the 12.
he wanted them. He wanted the sacrifices. So he's like a cute little 12-year-old boy. He's like, I can't wait to slit your throat near my dead lover.
It's dark.
It's different times. A lot of people are trying to like follow the supplication ritual with Achilles, I noticed. So like people will try to quickly like grab his knee and his chin. And one guy, Lycon, he tries to duck Achilles' spear to then go up, not for the kill, but for the supplication. Which
Wow.
like that image in my head was so clear. Like Achilles is going down to stab him, and he's like, I just need to say sorry. Like, is it too late to say sorry? And it doesn't work. So, but the Chions was interesting because he says they broke bread together. So they shouldn't have to kill each other because Achilles had captured him at one point and ransomed him. So while he was kidnapped, he was noble-born, so Achilles fed him so that he could get a ransom from him. And Peter Green talks about, it's interesting, the idea of taking life after you've given bread, because you've grown life into this person. To then take away that life doesn't really make sense. There's a paradox there that we should appreciate that even ancient Greeks understood probably more than we do now. Like that idea of food connected to killing is fascinating.
Yeah.
I just haven't really like thought through it. It doesn't come up in modern conflicts because you're
No.
not sharing food, and sharing food isn't so much a ritual anymore. Like it is then that you go to like a place like a cafeteria or a mess hall and you eat with your soldiers before you go out, but not the ransoming of people. So having people breaking bread with them. But it's interesting.
It is interesting.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Achilles kills him. He says, no one gets to live while I'm alive.
Okay.
He's gonna kill everybody.
Keep killing away. Achilles is just slaughtering folk.
We also get another guy. This guy's dope. He throws 2 spears because he's two-handed. He's ambidextrous. So he throws one spear and then immediately takes his hand and throws the other spear. And Homer makes a point of being like, because he can use both his hands. Pretty dope.
Yeah, everyone's like, whoa.
Dude, everyone in the crowd would be like, we can throw with both his hands.
Yeah,
I'm going to try that shit tomorrow.
Yeah. Do you think you can actually do that?
And they showed that, Homer is showing that would be, you're not expecting that. Like, nobody can do that. It's showing like how, outlandish that is, because one of it causes a wound in Achilles' arm. It kind of just like grazes him. But the fact that you hit Achilles with a spear is crazy. Which I like.
I love it.
He throws the spear back. It missed. Half of it went into the ground near the river, which is just wild that he threw, a spear 6 feet into the ground.
Yeah, right.
And that guy that threw both spears, he's trying to like break it or get it out to use against Achilles, but Achilles spills his belly open instead. At this point, the river is mad. Xanthos is pissed.
The river itself is upset.
Yeah, because he's a god. And he tries to talk to Achilles. He's like, hey, I can't even clean myself because you've made a dam of soldiers, essentially. So it's just real gross. And I kind of like the Trojans, but mainly it's gross for me. So Achilles says, fuck off. And then they fight.
The river.
So Achilles fights a river.
And how's that go?
It's confusing.
Okay.
It's confusing.
Well, what do you got for me?
So let's go back to the beginning of this part. Is it weird? How do you fight a river?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Well, you know what? And I was reading a good Reddit post about like Poseidon's powers and the nature of his powers. In modern like anime culture, we would assume Poseidon can like throw like water darts, he can do whatever he wants. But this commenter made a good point, which I'm glad I read before we did this, which is that they're describing natural phenomenon, so they would only be able to do natural phenomenon. So you wouldn't make like a water spear. You'd make a big wave because that's what oceans make. Like
Right.
you have to fight, you have to work within the boundaries of your natural phenomenon.
Right.
Something to think about. So how do you fight a river? The river's not going to turn into a man and use a sword.
Right.
Because that doesn't make any fucking sense.
So you would have to like flood the river with sand or like try to consume the river in some way or something.
Yeah. I don't even know how Achilles tries to fight it. So Achilles essentially just using his shield to block the tidal waves that this guy is throwing at him. He's just a one-man dam, which is wacky.
A one-man dam.
Can
that be the name of the episode? One-man dam?
One-man dam. Yes, it can. And then he would try to run away. And the river's boar kept overtaking Achilles, swift runner though he was. Gods are mightier than mortals. Achilles is mad because he doesn't want to die like a peasant. He wants to die by a nobleman in single combat or to a god.
Glory.
So I kind of mixed a quote with my interpretation there. He's trying to block with the shield and he's trying to run away. And at first you might be thinking, why is he trying to run away? Because he doesn't want to drown. And
yeah.
Drowning to him is a peasant's death. He doesn't say peasant. That's like my interpretation.
There's no glory.
There's no glory. Remember his eucatastrophe. His only chance, his Estel, his hope with a purpose is that he goes out in a blaze of glory so that Zeus turns him into Hercules.
Yeah.
Athena and Poseidon tell him not to stress, that he will not die in the river. And, I was thinking again about the purpose of myths. Myths are to teach us things. If even Achilles is afraid of a river, it's just further reinforcement for all those people listening to stay the fuck away from rivers, especially when you're drunk. Well, like, South America or like Mexico, like they have those La Rona Like those are all about like don't be drunk near a river, dude.
Yeah, well, also militarily, like a river's gonna complicate the fuck out of some things.
And if you're wearing all that armor, you're gonna drown.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you are Achilles.
Traversing rivers is a whole thing.
LeBron James will drown in armor in a river.
100. Oh God. Yeah, in Afghanistan it was
Michael Phelps will.
Well.
Yes. Eventually.
Yeah, in Afghanistan we had wadis. A wadi is like a really wide, muddy, wishes it was a river.
Mm. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Going through more of that, it gets a little weirder, but basically, Hera is going to stop it. She's just like, we're done with this part of the battle. You don't need to fight anymore. And so Xanthos stops. They get other gods involved. They use a lot of fire to try to like mess with the god. And then he's like, stop burning me up. And then they're like, well, stop trying to kill Achilles. He's got a different fate. The fighting is so crazy, right? All these people are dying. The rivers are shooting at mortals that have god armor that are blocking it. The earth is literally shaking right now. And Zeus is just laughing his ass off. He thinks this is just a riot.
Antics.
Yes, he's like, this is funny.
More antics.
And it gets even funnier. So Athene and Ares, they fight over the Diomedes stuff earlier. If you don't remember, Athene was helping Diomedes with his God-given moment when he had his a long time ago. And she even helped direct the spear into Ares' belly.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. We talked about that. Like, hurting a god is a big fuck you. And so then Athene knocks out Ares with a big-ass rock. Because he tries to fight her, and she's like, I'm Athene. And she's a fool. Have you still not learned how much more warlike than you I can claim to be when you pit your strength against mine? Ares is the god of war. But this is how Greeks are seeing it, that Athene, the god of technology, and essentially their favorite god, that is so powerful it can overpower war itself.
It's insane.
It's crazy to think about. Athene then goes and runs over and punches Aphrodite in the boob.
Boob.
And I just had to include that because that's hilarious.
That is funny.
And
my tit.
because like Aphrodite kind of stood up to her, like, what are you doing? And then she punched her in the boob, and then she fell down. And then Athene stands over both of them, and she says, let all suffer thus who lend support to the Trojans when they dare to confront the male corseted Achaeans. Basically saying, don't fuck with the Greeks. I'm on the Greek side. We learn more god drama. Poseidon and Apollo have bad blood because, and this is interesting, a long time ago when the Trojan wall was being built, they were ordered by Zeus to pretend to be laborers and like the labor to make the wall. And then the king of Troy at that time didn't pay them. So this has to do with something, if you didn't catch it, and I'm guessing here, but I'm pretty sure, that this is about Xenia. How do you treat strangers? So that guy didn't treat strangers correctly.
So it's like some karma.
Yes, and so Poseidon has not forgiven them for that.
Damn.
And that's why he's not going to support them. Apollo doesn't want to fight Poseidon because Poseidon is Apollo's uncle. And Poseidon is either just as strong as Zeus or right below Zeus. So then Artemis jumps in, the archer, and she starts rebuking him. And then Hera calls Artemis a bitch. Hera being Zeus's wife and mother.
Bitch.
And then she holds her wrist with one hand and then takes Artemis's bow and starts hitting her on the ear with the bow. Which has to hurt. Yeah, that has to hurt. Again, Zeus dying of laughter. He thinks this is the funniest.
More antics.
On the human side of things, anything on the god side, any questions or anything like that? It's just wacky god shit.
No, it's pretty boilerplate.
Yeah, sure. I don't understand any of it. On the human side, Priam is going to open his gates to let the Trojan soldiers en route come in. So he's making a risk there. Achilles, we're getting more of that farmer description stuff, right? He's described as a farmer trying to harvest some glory. And that's not good. Whenever Homer starts describing somebody as a farmer, you know people are dying.
Shit's about to get.
Yeah.
No.
So the route's going badly, obviously, because Achilles is having a great moment. This guy, Agenor, he has a moment of great courage. He decides to be the rear guard. And they make him so human here. So I love the ending of this book. This whole last part is fascinating because they make all these people as human as they can. He weighs his choices before he does it. He's like, I'll die protecting these soldiers, most likely. Like, for sure, I'm going to die. And then he's thinking, I could probably run away. And then if I run away, I can hide in the river. And then at night, I can try to hop over like the backside of the wall.
Yeah, but he'll have to live with that.
He said, but that's the thing. He'll have to live with it. And he's being honest with himself. He's like, I'm not faster than Achilles. Remember, we talked about, besides that river, it's mainly just plains. It's very flat. Achilles will see me and catch up to me. Like, if he sees me anywhere around the city, he can catch up to me before I can get away. Because the gates will be closed.
Mm-hmm.
So he's weighing his choices. Like, I don't really have a fucking choice.
This is yet another lesson about perhaps abandoning one's post is straight up dangerous, cowardice.
Yep.
You don't want to be living the rest of your life with a memory like that, knowing that that's what your character is.
Sure.
Like, that's not a life at all.
Sure. And then he gets to have a badass speech to Achilles. He's pointing a spear at him as the rear guard. And says, I'm sure you hoped in your heart, illustrious Achilles, that on this day you'd sack the proud Trojan citadel. You fool! Much sorrows to come still in the matter of Troy. That's kind of like a badass rear guard move. He throws a spear, and it hits Achilles' shin. But Achilles has those nice tin shins.
So he's like, nothing.
Well, it rings out. It's like, a little Zack Snyder. Yeah. Apollo switches with Agenor for his courage. So Agenor is saved through this. And leads Achilles through a battle all the way back to the river. And then the Trojans are able to finish the rear guard. So Apollo rewards this guy. Again, these are lessons trying to say, probably for the officers listening, this is the right thing to do. You will be either rewarded with your life or we will reward your family. Like, there is a reward for being the smarter guy, making the choice that you have to make. So Achilles is being drawn out. And now we get to book 22. Finally, we're here.
This is it?
This is not the end, but this is the fight.
This is it.
The Greeks
approach, fight, death.
The Greeks start by using what? A testudo formation. Testudo is the turtle formation of a phalanx that Romans aren't famous for. I didn't even know Greeks knew how to do this. This is Caesar Gallic War stuff that we would talk about how do you approach a wall to use your siege craft that you are creating. Well, you take your phalanx and then you have your second line, put their shields kind of at an angle, and then you have kind of a nice wall and you start walking with your boys. And they've been doing this since ancient Greece.
Yeah, you just got to scuttle on up there.
Scuttle. Crazy to think about. You know, I see memes every once in a while, like me on a Friday night with my boys making a testudo. And I'm like, I would love if my boys would like hit me up like, hey, we should practice our testudo just in case.
That would be dope.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
You gotta get in sync for it.
Man, this is giving me ideas for PE games for my kiddos.
Have you seen the PE games with this?
Yeah, it's epic,
It's
dude.
so epic.
It's epic.
You could do dodgeball with it.
I know. I need money for shields.
Yeah. And a lot of money for shields, probably. Okay, so Hector is still outside the gates. And I like the reason why he's still outside the gates, because he has constrained destiny. Basically, because of his position, he can't leave. Because remember, he told that other guy last book, or 2 books ago, to fuck off about removing the outpost.
Be a hypocrite.
And he's like, I can't let that guy be right. Yeah. If I go back in, I will lose positional authority.
Yeah.
Positional authority, I see it all the time in like government work and, you know, the private sector too. But I don't think about it with military. But it absolutely is a thing. Like, if you're the guy who gets things done, or you're the guy who says what to do, and then all of a sudden you're hella wrong, no one's going to fucking listen to you.
No, of course
Doesn't matter
not.
what your rank is.
Correct.
They're going to find a way around you.
Yes, you're going to go sit in an office and stare at a phone and wait until it rings.
It's interesting. I didn't realize. I was like, but it makes so much sense. It's just another part of being a human. So Apollo reveals himself to Achilles. He's like, hey, I was just fucking with you. And Achilles is pissed. And then he goes and runs off towards Troy. Priam, the king of Troy, he notices Achilles first. He has good eyes. And he tells Hector to get inside. He gives a really good line. And he says, how I wish he were as dear to the gods as he is to me. He's talking about his son. I wish my son, who I love more than anything, was as dear to God as he is to me, because I would never let ill befall my son, but the gods will.
Damn, that's kind of like almost like an opposite of the Bible, right?
Sure.
Right? Like for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, right?
Right.
This is saying that he wishes that the gods cared about his son as much as he did? Right?
Yes.
Am I interpreting that correct?
Yeah, that he wishes that Zeus cares about his son like he cares about his son.
Yeah, that's wild.
I love it. Like, I absolutely it resonated with me immediately, because we deal with this every day. Why we have car seats? Because there is a possibility we have a crazy car accident and then something happens to our kids.
Correct.
And it shouldn't, because I love my kids more than anything. So, like, nothing should befall them, but I don't have authority. And so, like, that line is so singular in my mind about, yes, this is the plight of watching your kid go into a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't stop them because they're an adult. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah. Wow.
Priam, then he's going to foreshadow Troy's fall. He's kind of foreshadowing that the men are going to be killed, that babies are going to be thrown or killed, and that he will be killed. He describes, this is weird. I reread this like 4 times. I don't understand it completely, but he describes like having well-trained dogs, right? So dogs that eat like from your table scraps and stuff. Like, these are well-trained ones. Them eating him, and that's like super symbolic, because they're going to drink from his blood, and because he was the one that like domesticated them, they will become crazy or something. It's like, wow. I was like, there's so much here.
I've also, across the years, I heard that there's some studies, not even studies, but if you die and pass out in your house, I've heard that your dog will eat you.
After reading this out, they're like, this is a fact.
No, truly, that's
what
I
I mean. Like, yeah. I don't think, although they're talking about crazy gods doing crazy things, a lot of these lessons
think that's legit.
Are like, here's something you should know.
Your dog will fucking eat you if you die. Yes.
My dog Sadie would absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
She doesn't give a fuck. I mean, she loves me because
You're going down.
I have value for her.
There's biology there. That's a wolf.
I was also thinking symbolically, if he shows one more chink in his armor, who's going to turn on him first? Peasants, merchants, right? People that are not like his immediate family. Even though he has this position of authority, how quickly does that turn on you? And once they turn on you, they're not going to turn back. A merchant that starts funding the enemy is not going to suddenly fund you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I saw a lot of that in there as well. Cultural difference, we got to talk about it, just because whenever boobs are involved, it's just fun. Hector's mom opens her dress and then takes out and holds one of her boobs. And like, it's not sexual, but it's like, it's wacky. And then because she's just holding it in front of like her whole kingdom.
I'm trying to figure out what that would mean.
Is Queen Elizabeth like using her breast out?
Yeah. Like, why though?
Because she's saying, if I ever fed you with this thing when you were not feeling good, can you do this thing for me and just go inside?
Interesting. So, like, are you telling me that like mid coitus, there's no booby play?
No, absolutely there is.
But are the boobies not sexual?
I think they're both. It's a both and.
Porque no los dos?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying that we have become afraid, and so they're only sexualized.
Yeah.
And that we're trying to roll that back slowly.
It's like a weird perversion thing.
Like a fetish.
Like we got perverted.
Like, do you know what this next generation's perversion is going to be? What their kinks are? It's going to be feet.
Dude.
They're so wacky about feet.
They are.
I don't get it. It's the oldest I've ever felt. Is that when kids are like, "Why are your dogs out?" And they aren't saying it as a joke anymore. They're like literally concerned, like, what if someone takes a picture of your feet?
There's a goddamn foot finder website, dude.
They're the deep kink shaming weirdness that will come out in 20 years. Mark my words.
It's such a normal kink, is it not?
I'm fine with people having foot kinks. I'm just saying it's going to be weird.
But you're saying they're going to get very odd about it.
It's going to be repressed.
Yeah.
Come out in their late 20s.
Like ankles back in the day. Remember?
Yes, very ankle based. And it's going to be
very ankle based.
It's going to be a tidal wave of just
God, dude, I
It's-
want off
it's gonna be
planet Earth.
Quentin Tarantino on a level we aren't ready for.
Just like ketchup and mustard
Yes.
draping all over toes, and we're just like, I don't get it. All right, moving on.
So Hector's like, I can't go in, Mom and Dad, because I told that guy that he was wrong. He doesn't say that to him. He says it to himself. And then he's like, I can't supplicate Achilles because I killed Patroclus. This is good writing. We have written Hector into a spot he can't leave. And the character is smart, and we want him to be smart. So we have to come up with compelling reasons for him not to leave. He can't leave because he put his whole, stake about, like, we have to stay out here. It's the right move. And then he also killed Achilles' lover. So Achilles isn't going to forgive him for anything. So he's stuck, which is good. That's good writing. We also get, at the end of that speech that Hector gives to himself, we get a proverb, what we think is a proverb, but we don't know what it means because it's only used once here and nowhere else, and we can't find it in any other Greek myths. It says, there's no way now from oak tree or from rock to sweet talk him. So there's no way now from oak tree or from rock.
That means basically nothing to me.
It's fucking nothing to me. So there's...
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm not dumb?
No. This is... If you are interested in this kind of shit,
Fucking
you can get a doctorate and you won't even be able to answer it.
Okay.
Because people have gotten doctorates analyzing this kind of... It's just interesting. This proverb was used once and was used at no other point in the book or in any other book that we've ever read. But we know it's a proverb. It has the cadence of a proverb.
Did you type it into artificial intelligence?
No. That's crazy.
This is a poetic and metaphorical expression. It suggests that there is no hope or possibility of change or escape from a difficult situation.
Sure.
The specific meaning can vary depending on the context which is used. However, here are some possible interpretations. Physical impossibility, metaphorical impossibility, despair and hopelessness, impotence, helplessness, or inevitability of fate.
Well, that's just focusing on the first phrase, there's no way now.
Blah, blah, blah,
But
blah.
I want to know, how does the oak tree and rock
nothing.
work into it?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's ambiguous in the biggest form.
Yeah. Okay.
What does it mean?
So the
Yes.
main thing that I think the scholarship is looking at is the proverb about the image, like farmland image, like pastoral images about the oak tree and the rock? Or is it more about Hector trying to look out at like a peaceful scenery? It's kind of just, what are those two images doing, the oak tree and the rock? Like, are you supposed to see those as like functional things that we should be able to interpret, or is this part of Hector's like longing to not be where he's at?
I think it's inevitability is what it represents.
Oak
Like-
trees are strong, rocks are strong.
They're just things that are always there.
Sure, I like that. Okay, so seeing Achilles, Hector runs away.
Bye.
Which is odd because later on, after he's dead, everybody says that he didn't run at all. I'm like, nah, he's going to run a lot.
It's definitely running.
The race is described as... Oh, we have this cool image of him running. It says, usually a race is raced for bull's hide or beast, right? So like you have a race and the winner gets bull hide and beast. But they both raced for Hector's life.
Oh, cool.
I like that. They ran around the whole city of Troy 3 times.
Does anybody know what the distance is?
No, but it's big. It's
a city.
It's a kingdom that controls many other places. The gods are having like a small debate about should they save Hector, even though they're not really thinking about it. Achilles couldn't overtake Hector because he kept having to move away from the city walls into the fields because of the archers. And he kept having to yell at his troops not to shoot Hector because Patroclus would only like it if he killed Hector, I guess. Then this is a doom. Doom is an interesting word. The word kind of, downfall, grim, terrible fate, ruin, but it doesn't always mean that. It can just mean the end. It can just mean like a termination. And like to be condemned, like a sentence, foreordained. The word's history isn't always negative. We use it now as a completely
So,
negative thing.
For sure.
But this could just be more like your doom is certain. Like you will have this thing happen to you. So Zeus gives his doom, and I want to read it because I just find it very interesting. But when for the 4th time they came around to the springs, then Zeus the father held up his golden balance, that's his scales, and on it set 2 dooms of grief-laden death, one for Achilles, and the other for horse-taming Hector. By the middle he grasped and raised it. Hector's fated day sank, pointing down to Hades, and Apollo left him. So Zeus did it. Hector's name went down on the scale, and even Apollo looks at it, and is just like, all right, I understand, and flies away.
Damn.
It's just like I feel like a silence
Mm-hmm.
creeps in. Like, shit, this is all we get now. Athene kind of helps Hector get some courage to fight because she wants him to fight, but there's not really anything that stop him at this point. He kind of has to. Hector tries to make an agreement about the duel. He's like, listen, I'm going to fight you, but I would like my body or your body to go back to where it's supposed to go. And Achilles says what's in the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, that between lions and men, binding oaths do not exist.
He says that in the movie?
He says something similar, like there's no negotiating between lions or something like that.
Okay.
And then he also says when they go to the beach, like, never forget who we are. We are lions! And they all start banging. Not each other, but
that's a different Troy.
yeah. The movie's good. Brad Pitt is a good Achilles.
He's a good actor, period, dude.
Sean, what's his last name? The guy who does Odysseus.
Not Bean.
Is it Beans? Benz? Not Bean.
Sean Penn?
Not Sean Penn.
Is it the dude from fucking...
The guy who dies in every movie.
Is he in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Sean
He's
Bean.
Boromir. Sean Bean. We are doing really good at podcasting.
It's Sean Bean, bro.
So Sean Bean as Odysseus is fantastic. My only complaint, and this is on the Reddit Greek mythology one that I was on today, they're complaining about the new Iliad movie coming out, is just sad we don't get Sean Bean as Odysseus because he's just so good.
He is good.
He's just so good at talking. Like, he reminds me of what I think Odysseus would be.
It's
like,
very relaxing.
very
to listen
smooth
to.
talking.
Yeah.
I'm like falling into your trance. Like, you are enchanting me with your speech. Okay, Achilles throws his spear and it misses, and then Athene secretly gives it back to Achilles because it's a one-of-a-kind spear, so he can't have 2 on him. It wouldn't make sense. Hector's spear hits Achilles' shield right in the middle. Dope. But it doesn't penetrate because he has like it's not called the baldric, but there's like the center point of a shield, kind of is in silver. So Hector is like, I'm gonna get fucked up here. This isn't great. And he draws his sword and charges Achilles. And Achilles holds fast with his shield and spear. This is the way that I read it. But then when I'm looking at these pictures, I must have got it wrong, according to like some of these other ones. Because I imagine in my mind Achilles standing still and Hector being like, fuck it, and chasing him and like jumping at him essentially.
Okay.
But the way that most of the paintings I saw described is that Achilles is actually the one going to Hector, and Hector's kind of like
He's
standing
the aggressor.
there. Which I don't know which one is true. I'm guessing the multiple famous paintings are true over my 1 or 2 reads of a paragraph.
Who knows?
Who knows, you know? Gotta have that eucatastrophe moment.
I'm sure they also had their artistic liberties that they...
Yeah. But it's very specific about what happens next, which is why all the paintings show very similar things. The painting that I have next to me, there's a million versions of this exact painting throughout the ages because it's so specific what happens. And it's just cool. So Hector's like about to hit him, and Achilles finds a weak spot in his armor because remember, Hector is wearing Achilles' armor. And so he knows that armor, and he sees a weak spot of when Hector tried to put it on right at the collarbone. And so that's where he jabs in his spear. And he jabs it in, which essentially is going to fatally wound Hector. But he doesn't crush the windpipe because Greek characters have to talk. Then Hector he comes down. He's falling down. He asks if he can be if his body can be ransomed. And Achilles replies, "I just wish there was a way for my raging heart to let me carve your flesh raw and eat it." So you are dying, and you're like, "Please, can you just let my dad buy my body back so that he can bury it and not do all the weird shit I know he'll do?" And then the guy standing over you says, "I'm thinking of ways to carve it and eat it because I'm so mad at you."
Right.
And then you die.
In the movie, don't they drag him?
We'll get to the dragon.
Okay. Is that legit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's fucked up.
Well, I remember watching in the theater and I was like, really?
Yeah.
You're dragging his ass. That's pretty intense.
He drags him every day for multiple days.
It's like that.
Until he gets so sleepy that he has to go into his hut. And then he comes back out rested and drags him.
So the movie was light. It was light.
And then all of these Greek soldiers come up and they all just take turns stabbing Hector. Yeah. And
Man, this makes me feel bad for Hector, dude.
oh, yeah, absolutely. I think you're supposed to. Because here's what they say about
I
him.
think you're supposed to.
It says, "Well, it's a great deal easier to deal with Hector now when he burned up our vessels with blazing fire." Basically saying, hey, he's a lot easier to stab after he's dead.
Yeah. No shit.
True.
Yeah, water's still wet.
Yep. And then they would walk up and stab him and then stand back for the other guy to stab him.
Oh, that's gross.
Yep. So then Achilles is like, "All right, everyone, we're done stabbing him for right now." And with that, he devised vile treatment for noble Hector. In both feet behind, he pierced holes along the tendons from heel to ankle, and through them strung oxhide straps that he tied together to his chariot, leaving the head to be dragged, all in front of his parents. So Priam doesn't do well. He's rolling around in the mud, trying to escape the city, trying to get out there. So the king, your king's son, the guy who was protecting your city, is dead, and you're watching his body get dragged. And now you're watching your king rolling around in the mud, screaming. And you gotta be just wondering at that point, like, this isn't a good sign for us.
No.
This isn't good.
The beginning of the end.
Yeah. The mom also not doing well, freaking out. Hecate, his wife, she's preparing a bath for him to come when he comes home. Kind of a waste of water. And she's sewing, which is, weaving. Weaving's very important.
Yeah, that's right.
Weaving with fate.
What is the word?
Techne.
Techne.
Yeah, your technology. So she's weaving. So she has value. So she'll probably get picked up by somebody. Maybe Achilles' son will force her to marry him.
Sick.
Which happens. And then that's complicated because she has a kid and she loves the kid. What do you do about that?
Drama.
She gives a pretty damning speech about... Oh, I got part of it here. "A widow left in your halls, our son still an infant, the child you and I so unluckily created. You'll never, now that you're dead, be a help to him." And I had like a emotional moment reading that. I'll kind of break it down by first saying my trepidations with starting this podcast. I don't know if you remember, but one of my first problems with this idea of a podcast for veterans is the veteran suicide rate is so high. I was having selfish issues with I'm going to eventually know somebody who kills themselves if I'm interacting with veterans all the time. And I appreciate Greek literature sometimes for its candor, or ancient literature, because of how much they don't fuck around with shit like this. And she is saying, you are less help to me because you're dead.
Damn.
And I was just thinking how happy I am that the veterans I know that have gone through shit, you going through the COVID and pandemic and stuff, that you're still here with your kids, and how valuable you are to your house. You are the one keeping your house here. How much I appreciate that. Appreciate you.
Yeah, dude. Wow, that's really intense. I appreciate you for saying that. I mean, Andrew Koval is better than me. And he gave this speech that he posted on his Instagram, but he was talking about veterans. And he was like, if you're a veteran and you're not using any of your service to do better in your immediate surroundings, then your service was worth basically nothing.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, veterans need to hear that shit.
They do need to hear that.
And
what's the point? What's the point of what you did?
Exactly. Even if it was a negative experience.
Yes.
You can
Even
still...
if the point wasn't what you wanted it to be. Make a point now. Ooh,
So,
I like that.
yeah.
I fucking like you, Andrew.
Dude, he's an incredible person that I admire.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I appreciate you for saying that, dude.
Yeah.
Strength.
It's positive masculinity. Like,
It really is.
support, because that's what she's saying. You were the one supporting the house. She's saying you were the one supporting the city, but you can, change that to your city, your house, your fortress that you are there for.
Yeah, that's epic. You're no good to me when you're dead.
Yeah. You're at least less good, right? Like, especially for the idea of like the young kid. And I know like modern sensibilities, we would shy away from that because, what about tragedy? What about people that are ripped out before their time? Which I don't think this negates that. I think this only highlights how shitty of a deal that is for that person and that family.
Yeah.
And that modern sensibilities, while they're good intentioned, are we really there for those that are going through it because of modern? I don't think modern sensibilities are helping me be more there for them.
Our culture is looking at modern sensibilities in the mirror right now, and we're wondering what their value is.
Yes.
All of us are.
Whoa. You just kind of blew my mind right there.
Well, it's true though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because
heavy themes in this literature you bring to our attention, Kevin.
It takes a good story to last this long.
Yeah.
And then she starts talking about, if their son lives, which she doesn't think he will, what's he to do? He's going to suffer a whole bunch because he has a dear father. He's going to have stories about his father.
Generational trauma.
Yeah. And, who will take him in? Who will show him how to be a man? Who will teach him how to be a warrior? And it's just not there. And because it says, I like her quote here, because it's kind of true for the Troy side of things, right? The Greek side, they have many warriors, but on the Troy side, they really have Hector. And it says, since you alone, Hector, preserved their gates and their lofty walls.
Damn, so what's going to happen? Is that then now Troy's going to fall next?
Not in the Iliad, but yes, Troy will fall.
What is it? If it's not the Iliad, then what?
Well, we don't know the exact story. That's where it gets complicated because they call it the epic cycle. So like the Iliad, those will go and deal with some of those things.
Did Homer write that?
No, Homer wrote the Odyssey next. So the Odyssey does talk about some of the things that they did. But some of the things are like, if I was Homer, I feel like I have a good grasp on Homer's writing style. I don't feel like he wants to belabor the 12 people that Achilles is going to kill and sacrifice soon. He's just going to say it because it's a thing you got to say. When they sack Troy, it's fucked up. Like, the things that they do are not good.
Really?
A lot of baby throwing.
Yeah, you were saying that.
And like, if it's not baby, because it depends on which story you're reading, it's not always baby throwing. Sometimes it's baby smashing.
Oh, better.
Against walls.
Yeah, that's much better.
So, those aren't... If I'm drinking with my buddies to the local theater to get a story after work, that may not be the story.
Baby throwing's not it?
It's not the one I want. It's like when you... I want to watch a good World War II movie, and you watch The Pianist, and you're like, oh, cool. Oh, no. It's the Warsaw Uprising? Oh, no, this couldn't be any worse.
Heavy. Yeah, The Pianist. I remember the day I watched that movie.
I remember the day I cried. Is
Polish.
Yes. Okay, so...
Olympics?
Things are going to get fun now. Things are going to get funny. Also wacky. I like wackiness. I don't really know how to describe book 23 correctly, other than things are just weird. Achilles is having a hard time sleeping. You think because he just murdered hundreds of people. But I think he's just really missing Patroclus. He killed all those people, which helped him. He got through his workday. Sometimes it's good after a loss to just go back to work. And the hard part is when you go home.
Yeah, I think that Homer's trying to connect with veterans right here.
Sure.
Like, no, veterans do not sleep well, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's not doing well. And then Patroclus' ghost comes and visits him.
Naturally.
And they try to embrace kind of. It's weird. But then he tells Achilles a bunch of random stuff. And he also says that they should have their bones mixed together in an urn.
Okay.
So when we're making those jokes about them being lovers and stuff, they want to be in the same urn and have the same gravestone. So that's the level of love that they have for each other, which you can say that's platonic all you want. At some point, there's a deeper component than just...
That's like some Marilyn Manson shit.
You and I have a very strong platonic relationship. I would much rather be in an urn with my wife than you.
See.
And I potentially will die for you and your family, but like, I would be pissed if like I knew at the end you're going to put me in an urn with you.
Yeah, that would be boundaries.
There's no boundaries
It's
there.
crossing a boundary.
But like,
for sure.
I would like to be next to your tomb. That'd be fine.
We can be in a very similar patch of grass.
We'd be tomb buddies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
I'll share the same ground as you.
Yeah. Like the mixing of bones. I'm like, guys are close.
The mixing of boners.
There you go. Oh, we learned a little bit about, and this is more in Song of Achilles, but why Patroclus, like what the relationship is. What happens a lot in these societies, and I don't know how much of it's just based on these heroic tales or if it really happened. I think it happened a lot from how many times I read it in stories, where you kill a guy. It just happens. And Patroclus killed a guy playing dice, and they were kids. So probably teenagers. And he probably...
Classic, dude.
Well, in Song of Achilles, he like pushes him, and the guy just trips and falls and hits his head on a rock.
That's brutal.
And it was intense. But what happens is, this is ancient times, you can kind of just start anew.
Yeah.
And so that's what he did. He got sold, essentially, or shipped off to Achilles' dad and Peleus. And so he was just assigned to be Achilles' squire.
God, I can't imagine the type of guilt back in the day of accidentally killing someone. Be like, I gotta have to like sail away and kind of start a new life.
Yes.
Ugh.
That's the Song of Achilles does a good job with that. He thinks about that guy often.
I bet.
For the rest of his story. But they fall in love, I guess, because he becomes Achilles' squire, and then they like never are apart again until he dies. So Achilles, after this, they try to embrace, but they can't because he's a ghost. And this is the part that I find fascinating. Even in a story where you have gods, and you have Achilles, who as a character knows there's gods, his mother is a god, the idea of like certainty of the afterlife or life after death is still up in the air to him. And so after he sees the ghost, he claps his hands and goes like, whoo! Well, so there really is something, even in Hades. Which to me is the most human. This is why this type of writing just resonates with me. This is such a human moment about being like, if I saw a demon or a ghost, I tell Hannah, like, would you be, she asked me when we watch horror movies, would you be scared? I'd be like, I'd be over the moon. You mean there's more?
Yeah.
I get to keep having this adventure of life.
I would enjoy some proof.
So even if it's scary nun shit from like a demon movie, like, cool. Sounds like we're rocking and rolling, friends.
In that moment, that was intense. But after the fact, as I'm eating this bowl of cereal, my beautiful children are at this table, we're good.
The road doesn't end.
The road does not end.
It's great.
And guess what's cool about this, bro? People still write about this shit to this
That's
very
what I
day.
mean. Like, it's so human. Like, I love it. I love this take on it. I want this more in super... Like, I don't see this enough in horror movies. I'm like, oh, dope, ghosts exist.
Yeah, right. That would be you and I, very literal people, would be like, got it.
But like,
got it.
I agree with you. You could still have me in a movie, be so excited, and then terrified.
Oh, dude.
Both things can happen.
I'm walking the block. I'm calling my dad. I forgot he's not alive. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, exactly.
I'm in a different world for a second.
Okay, so they make this huge pyre for Patroclus. They kill some nice dogs. They kill 12 Trojan boys, and then just a lot of other things. They think they kill a couple horses. And then you think that's going to be it, but it's not. They hold the Olympics.
How about a Fisk?
But it's not the Olympics, it's funeral games.
Oh God. Even cooler.
But it's
this
the
year's
Olympics.
funeral games.
And I don't know. I guess, they don't have TVs, and Achilles is trying to take his mind off of it. But also it kind of makes sense because like Thanksgiving down in Long Beach, after we eat, what do? We go play some football out in Uncle Pat's front yard.
Yeah.
So like, I get it. When you have a bunch of people around and you're not consumed by technology, you're like, let's go play something.
Yeah, that is true.
And I think I'm stronger than you. Like, right? Like there's like all that
Humans
kind of
have been
shit, like
doing
fun
it
shit.
since forever. We're like, we have downtime.
And it's long downtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about that today, and like how short window of times are. Like my day is minute by minute from the minute I wake up.
I know.
And they're dealing with multiple days of shit, of nothing. Even Achilles learning that Patroclus died, he wasn't that far away. It took a while.
Yeah. You have
And that was of utmost importance.
something we just don't have now is time.
And
Our
I
time is
miss
filled.
that downtime.
I
think I would read a lot more. I read a lot of
Bro.
books in my 5-minute downtime intervals. I'm getting good at that, but that's not what I want. I want like a whole. But then I also like technology, and I like playing Chivalry too.
It's coming, dude.
Yeah.
Just gotta water it every day.
Yep. So they're playing games. The first one is a chariot race. They had great prizes like gold and women. I write some of these jokes and I'm like, you'll say this, no problem.
Golden women.
That one was fun. There was one part where like Menelaus calls a guy a cheater, and the guy's like, I didn't cheat. And he's like, all right, take an oath on it. Swear an oath to the gods you didn't cheat.
It's like, I cannot do that.
And the guy's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm good.
And Menelaus is like, okay, you can keep the gold.
This is kind of like that thing, like how like the Mormons get married,
Scary, like the scary things they do,
like the hand gestures and
Yeah.
all those. Okay, so I once
the slitting the throat thing.
Is
Is that what they do? They do that?
I don't know, but I served with a dude last name Young. He was a direct descendant of Brigham Young.
Whoa.
And he was obviously not Mormon anymore by the time that I was talking to him, and I was like, dude, can you tell me what the marriage ceremony is like? He's like, yeah, we kind of take like an oath that would like, if I talk about it, it like damns me.
Yeah.
And he was like, even how dumb that is, he's like, that's kind of intense.
Dude, I respect it. I respect an oath.
I did too.
I respect an oath.
I was like, when you put it that way, bro, like damning someone like that can make someone immovable.
Sure. I mean, my fantasy children's stories that I've been like in my world building that I do for my kids, it's all based around this first myth about oath breaking and like how big of it like that shatters these characters. Like the whole point is you should stand by your oaths. Like that's the lesson there.
Word is bond.
Your word is your bond, man. But I like also Menelaus giving him the stuff anyway, because as a teacher I did it all the time. Like just like own it right now. Like own that you're a liar. And if they do, I'm like, all right, no punishment. I don't care.
I know.
I don't actually give a fuck. But like,
when I tell my students, whether they're, when it's a boy and they do something, like, dude, that's man stuff, bro.
Yep.
When they're sort of like, I did that and that was wrong, I'm like, oh, you're so dope.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And you try to reward that as fast as you
Same.
can.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a couple liars this year. It's hard. There's other things that you play. To understand this, it's the beach volleyball scene from Top Gun.
Okay.
It's your break. You just went through some heavy stuff, heavy lifting.
Go get some popcorn.
Go get some popcorn.
Take a piss.
Yep. Have some fun. They also do another horse list for the chariot racing.
Goodness gracious with the horse list.
Dude, you don't even know.
I don't.
Until you...
I'm just listening and I don't know. But I know.
Yep. There's a boxing tournament, which was cool.
There's this.
That one wasn't too exciting because there was a guy who was good at boxing, so he won. And then there's a wrestling tournament. And then wrestling was cool because they put Ajax, like the strong dude, versus Odysseus, the smart dude. And Odysseus knew all the holds. So Ajax is like throwing it, but Odysseus knew how to maneuver. So they got into a stalemate. It's really cool.
That's cool.
I really liked it. They throw iron, so like shot put. They have an archery contest, and they throw spears, although they just give it to Agamemnon because he enters that one, and everyone's like, he wins! He's Agamemnon! Everyone, right? No one's going to fight against this.
He's the spear thrower.
Yeah.
He's known for spear throwing.
Kind of.
Sure.
No one should... If you see your boss play foosball with you, you shouldn't just like start crushing him at foosball.
This would be uncouth.
Yeah, not if you needed to... Not if that guy was in charge of your life.
Okay.
So, like, would you do that
In
to
theory.
your sergeant? Yeah, my sergeant's not gonna beat me at foosball if I can help it. But what about like
A general.
a general? I'm gonna let the general. I'm not gonna. Maybe I won't let the general win. I'm not gonna play so badly that he thinks that I purposely went down on him. But
Yeah. What happens when the general's read this book, though, and wants you to actually try and beat him, though?
so much respect.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our final book. We're here.
Finito.
Book 24. Beautiful book. Book 24 is gorgeous. And not a lot really happens. There's one kiss. That kiss is legendary. We get at the beginning, before we get into the kiss thing, we get a reference to the Judgment of Paris. It's the author Peter Green wants us to remember that's the only time it's referenced in the whole book. And that's weird because the Judgment of Paris from our first part 1 is the whole Aphrodite, Athene, Hera, who is the prettiest with the apple, and they give it to Paris, and Paris has to decide, and that starts the whole Trojan War. And so he's like, why put it at the end like this? It's a question that we want to ask. We don't really know why.
Got it. I'm sure there's a lot of philosophy.
Yeah, but like putting it around that, like what does it do?
Sometimes things are just literally meant to invoke.
Yeah.
Like
the other thing to think about with, that proverb that was only used once, same thing, the way that I think about it, because I think about it like a linguist does, it was probably just common knowledge. Everybody just knew it. You didn't have to say it.
God, it's almost like a colloquialism.
Yes.
Like how you and I would say...
Ohio Riz.
There you go. Perfect.
But that's literally what it is.
Skibbity.
You don't have to say it every time and explain it every time.
It just is.
Because you know it.
Right.
And so both of those things, largely, I think with reasonable confidence that the audience would just know it. And so like you would reference it at the end just to make sure you referenced it, but you don't need to. Achilles is missing Patroclus. Specifically, he's missing his manhood and his splendid strength.
He's got to get on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's common. No shame.
All that he'd been through with him, all the hardships he'd suffered, facing men in battle in the waves of the cruel sea. Those two. I like Achilles and Patroclus' love. It's the only thing that humanizes Achilles, because Achilles is a fucking monster. He's
having love for that.
Well, because Achilles by himself, without Patroclus, is a raging monster. He just kills hundreds of people, and he causes his own people to die because he's mad about his slave. But Patroclus is very well liked. People love him. Even the slave Briseis loves him. She tears her flesh off because she's so in love with him, about how kind he was to her. And so the fact that him and Achilles and Patroclus had this relationship, it makes Achilles human. Like, oh, you're redeemable. You have some redeeming quality in you somewhere, which is very interesting. Being defined by your spouse like that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So Achilles would spend his days dragging Hector's body around, and then he would take breaks when he got tired, and then he'd do it again. Hector's body is protected by the gods, kind of like Patroclus's. We get some reminders that the humans are made of clay because Zeus breathed life into the clay. I have some Tolkien stuff on that, but the Roa and the Fea, we don't need to go into all that.
I think it's coming soon, bud. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this has been going on for like 9 days, 12 days or so. Thetis, Achilles' mom, she flies down from Mount Olympus and
takes a Southwest flight.
Yeah, exactly. She goes up to Achilles. She's like, "You're pissing off all the gods. All the gods are so mad.
You're fucking up.
Yeah, you know you shouldn't be doing this. You're not burning Patroclus, and you're just. Oh, I guess you did burn Patroclus, but you're not either burning Hector or giving him up. And Hector was noble. Hector was loved by the gods, by many gods. And what the fuck are you doing? Like, it looks so weird you doing this. And in my mind, the subtext also is you are supposed to do great things and die in a great battle so that you can become a god. And she doesn't say that, but I definitely am reading that lens through this. She says, "My child, how long will you go on eating your heart out with weeping and lamentation, thinking neither of food nor of bed?" This is a great... Imagine your mom saying this to you. "A good thing it is to lie with a woman, to make love, for you've not long to live."
Damn. Well, she's not wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
Mom's got bars.
Our modern sensibilities be damned.
Yeah, seriously.
That's what my great grandma, when she was going through like dementia, she had like the most positive form of dementia you can have, where she just would be happy.
I like this.
And she was just like, "Kevin!" I'm like, "What's up, Grammy?" Just make sure you dance and have sex.
Really? Really?
Yeah, she's really
Dude,
fun.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Dance, and did you follow her advice? I've danced with you on the dance floor, bro.
I get down on the dance floor.
With you, Kevin. No, I've been to a wedding with Kevin. He gets down on the dance floor.
I have fun on the dance floor.
Yeah.
You get sweaty. Okay, so Priam has like this huge thing. He decides that he is going to go to Achilles himself. So the king of Troy is going to sneak out. He's only going to take a herald, like an old guy, and that's just his driver, and he's going to go. But before he goes, he has to make sure to shit on the rest of his kids that are still living, because he's Priam. Get moving, you wretched children, you downcast. How I wish all of you, rather than Hector, had been killed at the swift ships. Alas, I'm wholly ill-fated. I sired sons who were the best in the broad land of Troy, yet of them not one, I tell you, is left. Fuck you, Priam. I'd be so pissed if I was his son.
Fuck that guy.
That's my dad right there. If you need a translation on that, listeners, he's saying, essentially, I hate you all. I wish any of you, or all of you, would have died instead of Hector. My fate is so bad because I have given birth to great men. But none of them are you.
Wow.
That's a fucked up thing.
Yeah, that's so fucked.
But one of them is Paris, so like it makes sense.
Paris.
Okay, so how does Priam get to it safely? In the movie with Brad Pitt, I like the take on it is that he says, "You think you know my lands better than me?" Which is a dope line. I like that line a lot. It resonates with me. Like, yeah, a good king would know his land. Hell yeah. In this one, since there's gods, a god just make Hermes gets him there, which is fine. And then he goes up to Achilles. Achilles is, I think, talking with a couple people. I think he had already eaten. And he walks up, embraces his knees, so supplication, and then takes his hands and kisses them. Those terrible, murderous hands that killed so many of his sons. So Achilles has killed multiple of Priam's sons, and Priam just kissed them. Fucking epic.
Yeah.
Epic. Talk about humility from a
just
king.
an insane level of respect.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then Achilles is like flabbergasted. He's like, "What? Is this Priam?" He says, "How could you bear to come to the Achaean ships alone, to look me straight in the face, the men who slaughtered so many of your noble sons? You must have a heart of iron." Gnarly.
Damn.
So he's immediate respect for Priam. They have a lot of respect for each other by then. They literally will just sit by a fire looking at each other until they get tired of looking at each other. And
Really?
It's weird. I don't get it. No TVs, guys. Like,
Yeah, for real.
but they're going through it right now together. They're trauma bonding through this.
Mm-hmm.
So they eventually like agree to release Hector because Achilles is just like, this is wild. Achilles says, so they're agreeing to release Hector. He's like, all right, I'll give you Hector. I get it. You know, they come up with a plan. They're still talking, and then Priam kind of presses the issue because he's obviously very anxious to get his son back, which I don't fault Priam for. But Achilles shows that he's still Achilles, and he says, "Stop working on my emotions amid my sorrows, old sir, lest I might not spare even you while you're here in my hut, suppliant though you are, and break Zeus's ordinance." So he's essentially saying there that if you try to push this too fast or push me the way I don't want to go, I'm just going to kill you. I don't care if I break an oath that I make against Zeus, like I'll just fucking kill you because I'm still Achilles. And Priam's response is genuine fear. Like Achilles isn't bluffing, and it's clear in his body motions that he will absolutely kill me right now if I do this again. Which I like this tension. Like they both have respect for each other, but Achilles is also still the fuckhead that stopped the war. You know, like he said no to Agamemnon. And anyway, Achilles asks Priam how long the funeral will take for Hector because he is, you know, the most loved son of Troy, and he represents a lot for them in terms of loss. And he says it's going to take us like 11 days. And he's like, all right, you got peace. We'll fight you on the 12th day. Which is crazy because Achilles is not Agamemnon. He's not in charge of everything. So he just says that. And they in this weird, they like eat, and Achilles is like, you must be tired, Priam. You want to stay over? And Priam's like, yeah, man, that sounds good. So Priam sleeps next to Achilles. Different times, it takes a long time to travel. Priam's old. Achilles is smart. Like, I do like that they add in a couple little like lines about Achilles is saying, you shouldn't sleep in my hut though, because people come in and ask me questions all day long because I'm in charge of all the Myrmidon. So if somebody comes in and sees you, they'll have questions.
Yeah.
And so he has to sleep like kind of like in this little shadowy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then Achilles, following the advice of his mother, goes and sleeps with Briseis.
Nice.
So
great move, bro.
Well, we're hoping it's consensual.
Yeah, good point. You don't know. You never know.
So the whole thing is that we think it is because Briseis has accepted him as, like, Patroclus has convinced Briseis that they will be married.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if that's true or not?
Right.
But I just hope that it was to make Briseis not in so much discomfort. So Priam sleeping to me seemed like a bad idea. It was weird when reading it. And Hermes, the god, also thinks it's a bad idea and says,
Good.
Dude, if Agamemnon sees you, he's going to kill you.
Right.
Maybe you should just go. And so he goes. So he goes back, and then we have the funeral for Hector, right? So we had the funeral for Patroclus and the funeral games, and now we're going to have the funeral for Hector to end the story. Everyone in Troy says like a lot of nice things about Hector, but there's some interesting ones. I like Helen's. Helen's is fascinating to me, and there's some stuff I want to pull out. She says 12 years since... Oh, sorry. One thing that she says that's interesting is she says the war's been going on for 12 years instead of 10. A couple theories on this. One, Homer uses base 10 math maybe to remember it, and then this is just one of the times when he wanted to be more specific. It could also be how long it takes for armies to be raised and get to the places they need to go. So there's a couple like competing theories here. No definitive answer. Because I think the more obvious one would be that he's just using base 10. Just like he's using round numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But then why would he suddenly at the end use a very specific number? It doesn't make sense. And so that's where that one falls kind of flat. Although it looks like the stronger one at first. So she's talking. She's giving her, it's not a eulogy, I guess, a lamentation. Where you just like talk about a dead person and how sorry you are that they're dead. I guess it could be a eulogy. Then she says, Yet from you I've never had one mean or degrading word. And if anyone else reviled me here in these halls, or of your brothers or sisters, or a brother's well-dressed wife, or your mother, your father could have been mine. He was always so gentle. Then you'd talk them round and restrain them with your personal gentleness and the gentle things that you said. So I weep, sad at heart, for both you and my ill-starred self. For no more in all broad Troy is there anyone left who's gentle or loving to me. All regard me with horror. When you look at Helen as a complicated character, this is the speech that they look at. Because the first glaring thing is that Paris is apparently not gentle or loving to her. Which isn't good for people trying to say that she chose to leave with Paris, but like either he wasn't kind to her and just took her, or he was and he has since become a dickhead and is like, you're no longer worth, now I'm going to put you in your place kind of thing. But the idea of somebody else dying and it ruining your life, because Hector was the only one that treated her like a person and held back these gates for her. And now it's going to be just so fucking shitty for her, which is hard. I like that last line. All regard me with horror.
Yeah, it's pretty well written.
Yeah.
Pretty beautiful. Pretty intense.
It's intense stuff. The very final thing, they put Hector in after they burn him, they put him like in a golden casket kind of thing and bury him. And Peter Green noted that we've found like these types of golden caskets. Like this is absolutely how nobles would be buried, is in these like golden casket urns buried in their places. So when we're talking about fact versus fiction, like there's so much here that is both.
Yeah.
Which is a nice place to end, I guess.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to wrap it up. Epic journey, dude.
We went through the whole Iliad. That's crazy. That's
Absolute-
600 pages of craziness.
Yeah, that's an epic journey. There's a lot to be learned there. This is an episode. This is a series I'll be coming back to when we go through certain things, whether it be in the world or in our show, like what we're studying. Crazy, dude. Crazy story. And I think that you did a really good job at making it palatable for the modern listener, myself included, because when it comes to stuff like this, I get pretty intimidated.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
It's not fun for me to like dissect English words like it is for you,
right.
But it's fun for me to listen to people like you talk about it because I'm not good at it.
Right.
So good job, dude. I do feel spoiled to have heard the level of the Iliad that I got from you, for like freezies.
And from Peter Green.
Right. But
Green's
also
our
you.
boy.
But you.
Thanks, man.
You did it. So good job, dude.
Yeah.
And if you're a listener and you're here, you're the whole reason we're doing this. You know?
Yep.
And Kevin and I really enjoy what we're doing. The world is in an interesting point right now. And so what that looks like for our show, we're still going to be a show. I imagine we're going to be going further away from this current moment in modern history.
We're saying pre-Vietnam for a while.
We're going to go pre-Vietnam for a while. Yeah.
There's one last thing on this book was that it's just a little joke, but it's true. I have ADD, I know that. But then the question becomes, as you get medicated and treated, like, do you also have autism or not? Or how on the spectrum? Like, where does the spectrum lie? Like, I don't think I have. Like, I don't think I would qualify even for level 1 autism, like, because it's levels when you get
spectrum.
medical diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I have that much. But I have like things where I'm reading this and I'm talking to my wife Hannah about it, and she's saying, "Why can you read this so easily?" But you can't understand Pride and Prejudice, because I've tried to read Pride and Prejudice, her favorite book, a bunch of times. I've tried, I looked at, like, I
want to know why you can't understand that?
Well,
because you're a man.
No, because I tell her, like, because the dialogue's so hard. It's so hard to follow the social things. And she's like, but this is just about scenery and things. I'm like, yeah, the scenery. It's so easy. On a spectrum-y thing, that definitely hits me hard on one side.
Because
like,
that's all social.
I don't understand the social
norms
and
that makes
dialogue.
Sense. That's hilarious.
And she's like, "This is why you like Tolkien, isn't it?" I was like, "I do like when he gives me some history."
He explains,
about the
and there's
rocks.
rules. There's a lot of rules involved. Yeah.
So, do I have enough to get to level 1 of autism? No, but ADD, I think, is very much touching tips with a spectrum.
ADD likes to go out on the weekends and hang around with autism, but during the work week, ADD is not hanging out with autism.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because I've been labeled as the de facto leader of my middle school teachers, which is just big.
What?
It was like a whole thing, but I was like, I must not be. Oh, it was great because at the time I was like, man, my social skills are getting better, but then I didn't want it, and then I said, and then I was like bored, so then I called out teachers on the spot to tell me their great strategies about a very specific question I had posed. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Nobody wants this or is prepared for this. And then I was like, then teachers are put on the spot in front of other teachers, and it was horrible. It was so bad.
Yeah.
I really fucked up.
Yeah. That's not good at all.
I went and told my principal just in case someone complained about me.
Is this year, bro?
This was on Friday. I went and told my principal today. I was like, just in case it comes up, I should probably tell you.
He said the de facto leader.
It was a joke, they said. Because they all meet in my room because our room looks nice.
Yeah, the problem is you're also smart. So people are like going to really like lure themselves towards you because like, he sounds confident.
Sure. Like, big swing and a miss there.
Hey, anyway, we love the listeners.
Yep.
We love this show, dude.
It's a great time.
It's been a good year.
It's been a great year.
Yeah. I hope, obviously, we'll be pumping out an episode before the year ends, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a couple little specials that I think we're going to do.
We're good. Anyway, we love the listener. You
Maybe
guys.
an alien update if this
Dude,
shit gets through.
Love this.
Dude,
Things
this
are-
is the light at the end of our tunnel of this election season.
Things are happening, bro. We're not going anywhere. We love our listeners. And we'll see you in December, even before maybe December.
we'll see you
But
soon.
we love you guys. And until next time, hoka
Hoka hey.
hey.